Go Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yao Mean of Revolution. Houston not big enough. You can't finesse the mob, finesse 2 times, going against the grain. Before we get into that, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. You in the House of Revolution. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. But Houston not big enough for finesse 2 times not to know he could never get away with what he trying to get away with. Let's get right to the content. Salute, family.
Is he saying he's able? I'm talking to myself like I'm able. I can do this shit. I can withstand this shit. All this shit that the world throw at you, you able. You can defeat this shit. You got help. Just keep praying to the higher power. Just keep on pushing. Just keep on going. And everybody that's not meant, they will eventually fall to the wayside. God gonna make them. He able. Even if he gotta put it in their heart to stop with you, he will be able. Y'all ain't understanding what the that man is saying. Yeah. Hey, Junior, I want out my contract.
You want to play in the devil's playground?
I don't want to be mob ties no more. I want my own shit. Let me go. Let me go, Junior. We done already made all the money we can make. I don't want to go to
Now, ain't he supposed to be saying this on the man answer machine or talking to the man across from? Why is me and you hearing this conversation? He don't want to be mobbed, because this is not for Junior. If you think he talking to Junior rap a lot, you crazy. See, he's still trying to finesse, and he in over his head.
know another label with you. I love you. But I no longer want to be mob ties business-wise. I love all the mob ties street.
Oh, you do, huh?
It's time for me a new look, Junior. It's time.
See, we're going to get into this with a lot of the rappers in the mob done said, but it wasn't really internet for them to hop on in and do what this man doing on these drugs. But we're going to see. We've heard this before. Houston not big enough. You in that contract. You're going to fulfill that contract. But why is he putting this out there? Who is he talking to? Because they ain't talking to rapper like he ain't talking. He ain't trying to get. Are you trying to alert the authorities? Finesse. You dry snitching on J. Prince Jr.?
Let me out that contract, bro. I'm done with that contract, bro. We ain't made no money.
I want everybody.
I've been with you for 4 years, P. We ain't dropped number 2 projects.
Please get that on the record. He's not talking to rapper like he's talking to the police. I'm gonna look into that tomorrow. What happened to that boy in Dallas? Salute. RIP that man. We're gonna look into that. But let's get that on the record. He's talking to the police. I don't want nobody to ever think this man is talking to J. Prince Jr. or rap a lot about I don't want to do bit. Boy, you talking to the police, fam. You dry snitching on them, telling them they extorting you. They won't let you out your contract. This for you, your lawyer, and him. Why are you telling us that? You talking to the police. You're trying to alert the feds to look into you on out of that mob ties contract. Because as we get deep into this program, we're going to look into why. Because you know how this going to go, and you trying to alert the authorities.
Ain't mob ties, ain't hitting on nothing with the music shit, P. I'm 33 years old, P. Let me go to somebody, P.
Mob ties ain't hitting on nothing with the music shit, P. But you just said you still down with mob ties in the street. That's what you said. See, you dry snitching. If Mob Ties ain't hitting on nothing with the music, then what is Mob Ties? There you go snitching again, bro. You on here snitching because you're on them drugs. Them drugs got you saying some shit you should have never said. You put it on the internet. You don't want to be down with Mob Ties musically. You want to be down with them streetwise. Federal government love that type of talk. The federal government love when you telling them that they not operating as a music business because y'all ain't making no music money, but you still want to be down with the street organization. Street organization, this is police activity from this young man. He's in fear.
That's gonna let me go and give me about 10, 15, 20 M's out this shit. If you want you some money out this shit, cool. You can get some money out this shit, P. I ain't tripping, but let me go make my money, P. It's over with. We done, bro. He's more than able, man. He's able, man. He's able. I'm telling you, man. God damn, Lord have mercy. Play.
The Lord is able, y'all. The Lord is able to deliver him. Out your contract? What's wrong with you, boy? Who deliver you out of a Rap A Lot contract? I ain't never seen that yet. You're gonna be the first one. You're gonna be the first one that I see get out one of those contracts for Rap A Lot Records. I want to see that. Revolutionary salute. And as we go through this program, ain't nobody ever did what he trying to. Ain't nobody ever did what he trying to do, and ain't nobody ever got away with doing what he doing with them fellas. Where I get hands and feet put on them. It's wrong. That's definitely blackface Ku Klux Klan activity to whoop on your people like that. But what he doing, he definitely gonna have to talk to them gladiators about that because he alerted the federal authorities. He want out that contract. He need help from the feds. He don't want to. He say ain't nothing going on musically. We ain't making no music money. Well, what all this ice? What all these jewelry? What y'all looking like y'all balling? You say you don't be down with them musically, but you want to be down with them in the streets. The feds want you to elaborate on that. Yapping ass nigga. Look at Big Dynamite. He crashing out. He got all kind of war with Moneybag, yo. All kind of people in Memphis. I ain't gonna we here to get deep into what he's doing with Rap A Lot and how that's gonna go left for him. I touched the war in Memphis, how that's gonna go bad for him. But I want everybody to pay attention to this nigga said he loved J. Prince Jr. I love y'all. I love Mob Ties. You into with but you hate Moneybag, yo. You don't like Pooh Shiesty. You're mad at Big Boogie. You don't like nobody from Memphis, but you loving everybody from Houston, nigga. There you go again, trying to finesse. You see what I'm saying? You think Rap A Lot gonna protect you while you done got into it with everybody? Nah, it don't go down like that, little nigga. You gonna fulfill them obligations, or you probably better off dead than alive. And wait a minute, what money is this nigga making if J. Prince Jr. on one half of his ass and Moneybag Yo on the other?
So I'm gonna get through this shit, man. I'm gonna get the off her and get the out of her, man. Before this shit get to getting wicked, man.
Good dinner, man.
You gonna do me like that?
Nah. I'm gonna just play.
2026. I don't give a about no money. You're 2026 already. Yeah, I'm gonna all your New Year's up. Your New Year's, when you wake up, you gotta see this. Your New Year's. Huh? How about that? Or you thought you were finna go to work and with a new year and a new look. Oh, my and New Year's resolution. Your New Year's resolution. That shit don't mean nothing. The white folks tricked your bitch ass. And your hoe ass then went to Walmart and bought all this New Year's ass shit, bitch. I ain't got nothing but some ground beef and some chicken and some fireworks, hoe. That's all I bought. You bitches went and bought hats, red, white, and blue, USA caps. Y'all all on Bourbon Street talking about some 5, 4, 3, 2. That shit don't mean nothing. Jesus didn't do that. Y'all think the Israelites set up and watched the moon and waited for it to be a new year? The Israelites didn't give about a new year.
The Israelites.
And you bitches sitting up celebrating it like it's something to celebrate. Oh, you trying to follow the culture? Oh, my grandma and granddaddy did this. when is the wave gonna ever stop?
This boy make it real easy.
And I knew I might die for this.
Oh yeah. You making it real easy to have for you to overdose, boy. You making it real easy for you to overdose, man. R.I.P. Pimp C. Long live DJ Screw. You making it real easy for you to overdose, boy. And then they all get everything. You get nothing. You keep, because every time we done seen this boy, he done been full of that junk. You making it real easy for me to believe when they say, oh, Finesse 2 times, found dead, overdosed off perks. The evidence is online, boy. You feel what I'm saying? You liable to get a perk that got fentanyl in it real soon.
But these white folks then programmed us, bro. They got us thinking Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's and family and Valentine's Day is a day to go spend all your money at Walmart.
See, the walls closing in.
Towards us and GameStop and shit.
You know what I'm saying?
They got people out here going to jail.
Don't y'all ever think this man making any sense? I see people in the comments say, well, he making sense to who? Who that? What? This man out of his mind. The walls closed. Man in a fucking bathroom, nigga. Walls closing in. His girl, and when you're in the bathroom, I mean your girl, the children are trying to play games. This is ridiculous, nigga. Ain't you? When you're in the studio, yeah. And you done told us ain't no music coming out. So what the fuck is you doing? Dropping all those songs. What you doing dropping all those songs on YouTube then? Who getting that shit? This nigga talk too much. They laughing. You done told us you ain't getting no money. What money is that? Money back Young J Prince? They giving you all this jewelry. Nigga, all this motherfucking shit. They done finessed you. That shit ain't worth a Mexican nickel. You done already told us. You want out. Sure.
Because they can't provide Christmas. Y'all see that woman go viral because her son said he ain't getting number 7 presents.
That's what his brother.
Look, bitch ass.
Look.
We supposed to got shit.
Look, this nigga evil. The Israelites. Jesus, and then this.
Oh, bitch, you did your mama like that fool. I swear to God, I want a bitch ass fool. Your mama did the best she could, fool.
This nigga went to prison. This nigga went to federal prison shooting at a girl, bro. This shit crazy to me, bro. Why did they act like he was a killer and this nigga went to federal prison shooting at a girl at the club? What? This some crazy shit.
He took her your ass
on. Every rapper in the game would rap a lot of protection. He wouldn't be talking. He wouldn't be doing none of that shit if Rapper Lot wasn't backing him. That's why he said, I love Rapper Lot. I love you. I love y'all. I won't be down with the streets. I just want out my contract. I love y'all. Yeah, they protecting your no good ass and you talk all that crazy shit, nigga. But now that you going online talking about this old for Junior and talking about Junior and y'all ain't making no music money and all that other federal shit, it's gonna be hard for the gladiators to protect you now, boy.
And you mad at your mom by sitting in prison? Your little bitch ass. Your little bitch ass. She tried, bro. She tried, bro. Don't do it, bro. She tried. That's your mama, bro. She tried.
There's a man who doing his mama dirty online every day.
So I took the 9,000 out the bitch purse.
Well, he started roasting.
I didn't give a damn.
He telling a story about stealing. I gotta go on. He telling a story about stealing Big Boogie's sister money, finessing her out of money. Big Boogie is a big buster, nigga. That's I don't want to hear no raps from that nigga. Nigga Finesse tell a story, stealing your sister money while you in the other room, stealing her $9,000. You rapping ass nigga. You ain't never gonna tell us nothing. You just dry mad at Finesse on the down low. You stole your sister $9,000. Y'all can't never be listed to these type of rappers no more. We don't want to hear nothing from no nigga named Big Boogie. He a big buster. Nigga stole your sister $9,000. Her income tax, your nephews couldn't eat or none of that type of shit. You around here rapping, playing tough, nigga.
Damn.
It's crazy.
I didn't give a damn.
Niggas goofies like Chop Will.
You gotta understand, I'm hungry. All right, fast forward. I jumped. Now you had to raise her hood and tap the cord on the battery to make that motherfucker start. So when I opened the hood to that, I tapped the battery, tap, tap. That motherfucker said, tap, tap, tap. And I looked up at the room, and the light turned on. So I hit that bitch again. Tap, tap, tap. The tap, 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 tap. They being crunk up. Wow. I closed the hood. Fap. Jump in that bitch. Jump in that bitch. I'm in a 1998 Bonneville in 2011. 2010. I got my ass. So it was a little Caesars. Now I had a warrant, so I couldn't go to my baby mama house. But I called my baby mama. She remember I called Didi. I said, Didi, I just took off on this bitch with her $9,000. Listen, I needed it. I needed it for my kids. So listen. I'm in Little Caesars. I'm on Fraser Boulevard. Come get me right now. Come get me right now. She coming out. She pulled up in a goddamn two-row cobalt sideways. Her smooshed all to the side. Light-skinned, ugly, neck short in the. She pulled up. Ugly, stupid, sleepy as hell. I get it. What you didn't do? Yeah, let your stinking breath ass up. I'm straight. Boom, I get the counter cake. Now, I ain't take the girl car. I ain't take Big Boogie's sister car. I took the keys and put the keys under the seat. I left her car. So y'all can't say I'm just pure cold-hearted.
See, this man crashed not because he's been finessed. He's been taken advantage of, y'all. He tried to finesse Rap a Lot and got finessed. You know, that's a fact. But he's just the latest. He's just the latest who are not complaining online because he's not getting out that contract without some violence. That's what he needs to understand. He's not getting out that contract without some violence.
We coming from the street, so we still a lot of rough around the edges. Man, I came to Houston. I was age 13 years old. Originally, I'm from New Orleans. I had to deal with that bias. You know what I mean? He Houston, but he not really from Houston. He from New Orleans. You feel me? He born in New Orleans, but he was raised in Houston. That's what started the rockiness in the relationship with me and Rap a Lot. You know, it came to an ugly head.
Because we've seen this story before. He don't fulfill that contract to the mob.
In 2004, Michael Barnett was paroled and released from prison. The rapper known as Big Mike had served 3.5 years for torching a studio affiliated with Rap a Lot Records. That offense was the culmination of simmering tensions between Mike and J Prince's label, on which Mike released well-received solo projects as well as albums with the Convicts and the Ghetto Boys. By 1997, Mike's star status had risen so high that J Prince, CEO of Rap a Lot Records, wanted to lock him down under a long-term contract. Just like from the movie The Godfather, J Prince attempted to make Mike an offer he couldn't refuse.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
This is when the trouble would start. These are the detailed events that would take place before, during, and after Big Mike's war with J Prince and Rap a Lot Records. Michael Barnett, born January the 23rd of 1966, hails from New Orleans, Louisiana, the 9th Ward to be exact. Mike relocated to Houston around the age of 13 to live with his grandparents, who were residents of Houston, being that his grandfather was originally from the city. The intention was to bring Mike to Houston for a while to get him away from New Orleans so that he could have better opportunities presented to him. Mike's people felt that the resources and opportunities were limited in the NO, hence the reason for sending him to Texas. Although New Orleans is more of a festive city, the streets are overrun by drugs, violent crimes, and murder. Mike grew up in a tight-knit community. As the old saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. Even though Mike was from the Ninth Ward, he spent most of his time uptown. Most of Mike's cousins, aunts, and uncles all lived in Gertown. Mike had never really had interactions with other races until he relocated to Houston. Mike, who was fortunate enough to be raised in two places, quickly realized that the culture in Houston was definitely different. While in Houston, Mike missed some of the things that he grew up with in New Orleans. However, once in Houston, a whole new world was opened up to Mike. Living in two cities would even enhance Mike's accent and slang, giving him his own identity. Mike had been around music his entire life. His pops played the drums, which Mike was fascinated by. From a child, Mike always knew that he was going to express himself musically, but just didn't know in which form until he heard hip-hop music. The two songs that would do it for Mike were Drop the Bomb and Planet Rock. Once Mike got to Houston, he started putting pen to pad, writing down his own rhymes. Nobody in Mike's family really knew what rap music was, so they didn't really know what Mike was doing. Mike's pops understood the music aspect of it, which in turn, Mike would record demos with his pops. While in Houston, Mike attended Jack Yates High School. It wouldn't be long before Mike would meet Tony Draper, a.k.a. T. Draper.
Zero stood up for herself too. They just jumped.
In fact, when the two were younger, they both worked at the Olive Garden for a short period of time. They would put their checks together to purchase studio time to make music. Tony Draper, who was a mover and shaker at the time, take the music that they made, stating that he had connections with people in the game. Before he knew it, Mike and T. Draper were having a meeting with J. Prince to sit down and discuss future business ventures. It was at this point that Mike would meet Mr. 3-2, hanging together almost every day. The two would become like brothers. Rap-A-Lot had already approached Mike with the convict situation upon introducing Mike to 3-2. The agreed-upon deal was for Mike and 3-2 to get the convicts popping. In turn, they would both be blessed with solo careers. The rest would be history. When Suge Knight was putting Death Row Records together, a deal was made to bring the convicts out to Los Angeles with the intentions of signing them to Death Row. Suge felt the whole idea of convicts and Death Row would be a good fit. Not long after that, Mike and 3-2 ended up out in Cali working on an album. Unbeknownst to many, a couple of songs that they came up with actually made the list for the Chronic album. If you go back to the Source magazine when Dre was on the cover with the gun to his head, Dre mentions his favorite song on the album. That song was Mr. Officer. Mr. Officer was slated to be on the album as well as the track Straight Gangsterism. DJ Unknown, who had it worked with Compton's Most Wanted, was also working on the project. Unfortunately, the album would never materialize as Mike would be approached with the Ghetto Boy situation from Rap-A-Lot Records. A Rap-A-Lot Records representative reached out to Mike, pretty much confirming that Willie D was leaving the group, inviting Mike to fill the vacant spot. Mike thought about
it. He was leaving behind his money.
A few months before he would decide to take them up on their offer. Upon returning to Houston, Mike contributed to the group's 1993 LP, Till Death Do Us Part. It was a strong album that would eventually go gold. However, all was not peaches and cream for Mike during his short-lived stint with the Ghetto Boys. Mike was low-key having issues with Face. Brad allegedly didn't like the attention that Mike was getting.
And that wasn't right. See, Face wrong for that. Face wrong. Nobody would say that. Nigga, Big Mike was writing some hits. Rap-A-Lot was on top at that time. Big Mike was holding his own. Face, I guess Face was a little jealous with that penmanship and that Louisiana playerism and some of that playerism, you know what I'm saying? One thing about Face had a lot of gangster music. Big Mike brought some playerism to the table with his gangster funk. That's just a fact, and they gotta keep it real. That Louisiana funk was real good for Rap A Lot. Now and Face didn't like that. That's a problem.
When Mike jumped in the group, Face was the hardest of the previous three, and everyone knew it, even Mike. The tension was obvious. Face allegedly didn't like the attention that Mike was getting as another member in the group that was going hard in the paint. Face allegedly stated that he no longer wanted to be in the group or spit on the next album if Mike was still around. Face was the big name, and obviously he had seniority. Per J. Prince, Face was the major reason that We Can't Be Stopped went platinum. Although Mike had written for Bushwick Bill on the album, he wouldn't be given his just due. The bottom line was that Face was on some whole shit and not trying to share the spotlight. There was also word floating in the streets that Face and Mike had gotten to a physical altercation. The wild thing about all of this shit is that from the time that Mike had got to Rap A Lot, he and Face had actually spent quite a bit of time together. They used to ride around and buy music together, listening to new albums. If they were trash, they would toss them out of the window. It was a no-brainer that they had hit it off, having built a rapport with each other. Mike had moved to Atlanta just to get his mind right, taking his work out there with him. After maybe about 6 months of being in the A, Mike ultimately ended up coming back to Houston. Upon his return, Mike had free access to the studio and was working with 3 different producers. The outcome would be the classic album, Something Serious, that consisted of bangers such as Player Player, Having Things, and World of Mine, just to name a few. Just like a bad pair of dice, things would soon get shaky. Around the time of his success, Mike attempted to collect monies that were owed by Rap A Lot Records. J. Prince would agree under one stipulation. That stipulation was signing a new record contract.
Finesse never get nice.
Mike's current contract hadn't yet expired. On top of that, Mike had been receiving offers from other labels. Confused by this and unsure of what to do, Mike would go off on J. Prince behind his bread. Apparently, this didn't go over too well with J. Prince, as Mike would be put on speakerphone with the goons lurking on J. Prince's end of the line making threats. Although this incident disturbed Mike, he would try to put the conversation out of his mind. Later that night, Mike fell asleep like normal in his new Missouri City home. But in the middle of the night, as he lay next to his pregnant girlfriend, something would wake him up. An eerie sense of insecurity had fallen upon Mike. As he walked into the living room and sat down, Mike would pause for a minute to light a cigarette, saying to himself, "Lord, I feel like somebody's plotting against me. Please watch over me. Don't let anything happen to me." Mike made the sign of the cross and leaned over to ash out his cigarette. At that very moment, shots rang out and he heard the sound of glass smashing. A bullet penetrated the wall right behind him, right where his head had been a moment earlier. Mike ran out of the room, avoiding the bullets and injury. His girlfriend was thankfully okay, as were his children, who happened to be with their mother that weekend. It was divine intervention that Mike would think saved his life.
All because he wanted his money.
Mike never went to the police about the shooting. As a street dude, he instead stood by the code. After thinking about it, Mike initially intended to turn the other cheek.
That's the dumbest move anybody could make. This is record business. This is the record business. Ain't no street business. They can't kind of kill your record business. You see, that's what they want. That's how they can control you and keep your ass, never getting your cash. That's what they want you to do. Just keep it all in the streets while they stealing all your hard-earned money, just taking it all away from you and paying taxes on your shit. But they want your dumb ass to keep it low. Keep it quiet. And please, you'll never win nothing like that.
However, an encounter at a nightclub with a Rap-A-Lot security guard would change Mike's mind entirely. If you're from the H, you've already heard about a drink being thrown and Mike getting jumped in the club. Mike held that shit down, although he was outnumbered. Shortly thereafter, Mike made the decision that would dramatically alter the course of his life. Pissed off by the entire situation, Mike would attempt to burn down a studio used by Rap-A-Lot Records, as well as a Rap-A-Lot Records headquarters. It wouldn't be long before J. Prince would allegedly give a statement on Big Mike, which would lead to his arrest. Mike would go on to serve his time in various spots around West Texas and was released a little more than halfway through his 6-year sentence.
Nobody would talk about that. Nobody would bring that up except Whack 100. That Big Mike say J. Prince gave a statement on him, said he burnt down their studio. They didn't see. Mike said they didn't keep it in the streets. I don't know. I thought it was in the streets. You burn down a man's studio. No, you can't keep that in the streets because they got to file paperwork. They got to get insurance money. You see, this is the music business. Only your dumb ass going to be keeping the streets while they filing taxes and making all kind of legal money and getting insurance money off your dumb ass.
When he returned home, Mike found that his name had been slandered. There were rumors that he had lost his mind and that he was abusing substances. Neither were true. When asked in an interview, how does he now feel, Mike would say, and I quote, "To the average person, it may feel like they want, that they were able to stomp out my name and throw dirt on it. But I know it doesn't stop there. I'll always have another opportunity. Even though these events have changed me as a person, I'm enjoying the person that I am."
Revolutionary salute, you see, but Face even had his chance to find out that there can only be one.
Because he never was able to come from under the umbrella he was under.
What umbrella is that?
Pretty much the Rap-A-Lot umbrella.
Finally get a chance to do an independent thing. You know what I'm saying? Like I get to release an album by myself.
Yeah.
So Jay heard this record that I made called Scarface.
I'll be super real with you. And I just don't think that the Ghetto Boy albums were perfect. In 1998 is when I really started looking at life like, damn, I always say it's the wolves. You know, he was raised by wolves and I was raised by that wolf. Okay.
Jay made that man apologize. See, he going on TV. He had to apologize because he had allegedly disrespected Jay. Jay made him go publicly and apologize to him. See, Face had to apologize because he wasn't above getting beat. It's just crazy, man. Everybody who nobody was, see what I'm saying, above getting beat if you be too disrespectful to the old man. That's crazy.
So when the wolf go kill, the wolf feed his pack. Okay? Yeah. Me being raised by that same wolf, when I go kill, it's my responsibility to go feed my pack.
Fat Terrence Jordan, aka Scarface, was born on November the 9th of 1970. Face, originally from Houston, Texas, had to get it how he lived at an early age. Raised by his mother and grandmother in the South Acres neighborhood of Houston, coming up as a kid, Face watched his mother, who was a single parent, struggle to make ends meet for her family. In his teen years, Face briefly attended Missouri City Junior High School, aka Most City Junior High, from 1984 to 1986, and was once a member of the football team. Face, who originally went by DJ Action but was suggested the name Scarface by Willie D, was a member of the Ghetto Boys on Rap-A-Lot Records. Although Face will switch up the game going solo in 1991, no one, and I mean absolutely no one, could question his legitimacy throughout the South and across the nation. Scarface began his rap career during the mid-'80s for James Smith, aka J. Prince Sr.'s then federally labeled Rap-A-Lot Records. J. Prince was trying to revamp his group, the Ghetto Boys, and would eventually ask Face to join the group in the late '80s. These are the events that would take place before, during, and after Scarface signed to Rap-A-Lot Records. Despite challenging circumstances growing up, Face developed a strong passion for music at an early age, often writing rhymes in his spare time. Face's first chance at working with a label was with Lil Troy's Short Stop Records, a local label in Houston. Lil Troy was actually a valet for J. Prince and initially had Scarface first. After releasing
Troy wasn't no valet. 504, that street store, that's my partner. You know what I'm saying? Troy wasn't no valet. Jay said that was disrespectful. Troy wasn't no valet. Troy was a kingpin and a big time boss on the South Side, and Jay posted his talent. Scarface was his talent. Jay posted his talent. Troy was not a valet. He didn't wash Jay cars. He didn't drive Jay cars. He was his own boss, had his own cars, and everybody found that out when Troy got into a Scarface, and Troy put out that him and Scarface was beefing. He said Scarface was a snitch, and he put out some paperwork. I'm not here to talk about that. But Troy stood on his own. Pimp C even attacked Troy. Troy went at Pimp C. And nobody ever did nothing to Lil Troy. People from out of town, they understand that. Troy stood on his own against Rap-A-Lot, facing Jay. Because he's a Southside dude. And nothing ever happened to him. So I just got to correct that. Ain't no one in hell Troy was valeting J. Prince cars. That's not true.
12-inch single, Scarface, Another Hit to Put the Rest, produced by Bruce Rhodes, aka Grim. Face will go on to sign with Rap-A-Lot Records and join the Ghetto Boys. Face's first solo album, Mr. Scarface Is Back, was a success. It wouldn't be long after that Face's popularity would overshadow the group the Ghetto Boys. On Fire and Hotter Than the Bissonette Hooker in 1992, Face featured along with Ice Cube and Bushwick Bill on the Cool G Rap and GG Polo album Live and Let Die. Face remained a part of the Ghetto Boys while releasing a series of solo albums that kept him in the public view, with increasing record sales, making him the only Ghetto Boy member that has always remained with the group since the group roster was revamped in 1989. Face's career peaked with The Diary and The Last of a Dying Breed, which received overwhelmingly positive reviews and sales, earning Face Lyricist of the Year at the 2001 Awards. In 2002, Face released The Fix, a follow-up to The Last of a Dying Breed, and returned to the studio with the Ghetto Boys for another album.
The Fix album is his best album. A lot of people say different, but that's the album he dropped on Def Jam South. I think he got 5 mics. That is a totally complete album. That's to me his best album. A lot of good music on there.
Foundation. Face was also featured on the Biggie duets alongside Big G and Akon, going on to feature on Ray Cash's debut single, Bumpin' My Music.
The police coming straight from the underground, a young blowing big coming down.
In addition to his career as a rapper, Face has also been the coordinator and president of Def Jam South, where he fostered the career of Ludacris, whom he originally signed to the label.
Hey, you put it down right here in the ATL, man. What's been up with you, baby?
You know it don't stop. Just doing a little Def Jam thing, releasing a record at October time, It don't stop.
Working that Ludacris project for y'all, you know what I'm saying?
I appreciate that love and support, man, for this new artist, man. He's a great dude, man. For real.
Cool.
And he's got a great record, man.
No
Indeed.
We gonna show you love.
They were promoting Brad Jordan. You see, he don't call himself Scarface no more. He stopped calling himself Scarface because Rap-A-Lot, J. Prince owned Brad Jordan. He had to call himself Brad Jordan. And Jay didn't like him going to Def Jam South. That's a fact. And he put it into that real quick.
Oh, man, you know what I'm saying? You just got to the ATL. We've been here. So you got to recognize the real when it comes to video. You know what I mean?
Well, real recognize real all over the world, whether it be real or real or real or real,
Yeah.
Bye, y'all.
It was said that Face's stint as Def Jam was an attempt to get out of the grasp of J. Prince Sr., which was orchestrated by Jay-Z. Unbeknownst to many, Face's musical journey extends far beyond rap and hip-hop, even though one could cite legends of the game like Ice Cube, Jay-Z, Nas, Dr. Dre, Houdini, Slick Rick, and Big Daddy Kane as Scarface contemporaries. Face would find his entryway into the music game through other heavyweights like Black Sabbath, Kiss, and Jimi Hendrix. As a kid, Face grew up in a band. His uncles were in a band. His cousins were in a band, etc., etc.
No, I picked up a guitar because I grew up in a band. Johnny Nash is my cousin.
Face's uncles, who were all into music, would have jam sessions and take smoke breaks. Intrigued by what was going on, Face would always be that fly on the wall, watching them all day. Whenever his uncles would leave to take a smoke,
even the situation where Face had caught the federal case, nobody talk about it except for LaTroy. LaTroy, the only person in Houston who has ever talked about that case. Nobody else talk about that case. They don't want to get beat up. They don't want to get beat up at the stores, at the smoke shops, at the clubs. You're not allowed to talk about that goddamn case. Only LaTroy is willing to talk about the case and brought the paperwork out about the case. But what nobody will pay attention to is, why was Scarface selling weed? He got busted with a big time weed transaction, and drugs were involved, but he was, introducing some people to a dude, and he was gonna get a cut off the top and middleman type shit. But he introduced somebody to the police as a guy, as his homie. He didn't Face to know that dude like that. He was a federal officer, But I think they ran a play on Face that made Face need Rap a Lot even more. He needed him even more. But if that was anybody else, any other rapper did that, that would have been the end of his career. They'd have called him a snitch. That he would have been done. They covered that shit up for free.
Smoke break.
He definitely introduced the man to the police as his weed plug.
The guitar and tried to do what he had seen them doing all day.
So, and then all my uncles played guitar and drums and smoked weed and jammed all day long. So when they got through, jamming and went outside and chilled out, I was in the room smoking weed and jamming.
Not long after that, Face would ultimately learn how to play guitar from his Uncle Eddie. The rest would be history.
And my uncle played guitar in Johnny Nash's band.
Let's fast forward. Face, never wanted to bite his tongue when asked about what happened with Rap a Lot, would say that J. Prince was trying too hard to emulate Master P and No Limit Records. During an interview, Face went on record to say that J. Prince wanted to Master P the game. He fucked up so bad by trying to do Master P when he should have just continued to do him. Face would say that he felt like that was the fall of Rap a Lot Records. It was during this interview that Face blasted J. Prince for trying to release more music than Rap a Lot could handle. Face was obviously not happy about the entire situation, going on to state The World Is Yours, The Last of a Dying Breed, and Balls in My Word were all projects of his that were compromised by J. Prince. When it came to 2006's My Homies Part 2, Face went hard on J. Prince, and I quote, J. Prince put my name on My Homies Part 2. Man, I didn't like that shit. If anything, I feel like he was trying to ruin my career with cutaway material that never made my fucking album. Jay is a totally disrespectful dude when it comes to your shit. Yeah, Jay didn't give a fuck about you. Give a fuck about himself. He doesn't give a fuck.
And I heard that he had got his arm broke. That was a big debate on my TV. But some people hit me behind the scenes and tried to fill in the blank on that. I don't remember what they said, but it's on my channel. I heard Face had got his arm broke talking that shit. But I do know he came on. We do know he came out and apologized. But I heard he got his arm broke. That may have been false information.
Your family. He gave a fuck about his. He doesn't give a fuck about who you feed. He only feeds his people. That's real shit. I'm not making this shit up. Let's move on. Unbeknownst to many, there isn't a single Ghetto Boys album that Face actually liked. Pissed off at the time, Face would say that he didn't learn anything from being a part of the Ghetto Boys. This was all at a point in Face's life where he was the most miserable. Everybody else was happy but Face. He wasn't feeling the vibe. Not only in Houston, but across the entire United States, everyone knows that J. Prince doesn't take lightly to
Now,
disrespect.
when Face said that Jay was just putting out his music whenever he wanted, and that was disrespectful, now that's true. Because I spoke on that before when the 50 Cent beef was going on, and Jay was fucking with Irv Gotti and Death Row. So Jay, and I never forget that, Jay put out a song with Zero on it, Bun B and Scarface, and it was a diss song towards 50 Cent. It's called Snitch Nigga. You a snitch nigga when you rat on your friends. Zero is the only person, Zero was going at 50 willingly, but Zero was doing it to back Rap a lot, and because 50 had this Mo playing, he didn't really mean it had this big Mo, and so Zero was riding, trying to get some traction. But Jay Prince had found a Scarface verse and put it on there, and found a Bun B verse and put it on there, and made it seem like Face, Bun, and Roe was dissing 50. I remember Face saying he didn't like that, and Bun didn't like that neither. And 50 say that he had talked to Face and them, and he wasn't tripping on that, but they had let 50 know they wasn't dissing him. But Jay took that as a real diss. I mean, Face took that as a real diss from Jay to do him like that, because there was big beef going on, and he didn't want to be part of none of that. Jay didn't give a fuck what he wanted to be part of. I say, and I bet you he asked Face to write a diss, and Face said no. So Jay just went grabbed the nigga verse out the studio that he wanted and put it on the 50 Cent diss song.
Rumor in the streets of both New Orleans and Houston was that Jay Prince got at Face about the comments that he had made during the interview. Most would speculate that the rumors were apparently true, as Face would later attempt to clean up the statements that he made in a new interview with Vlad TV. When asked about the beef, Face would say, "That's family business on a personal level. That's my brother. That's my blood."
But recently, there was some news that you made some comments about James Prince, and I talked to you about it, and you said that a lot of that was taken out of context.
We have a family business.
Yeah.
And our family business is family business.
That wasn't taken out of context. Face said exactly what was on his mind. He told the truth. Jay not having no truth getting told. You can't tell no truth. And nigga, till I started doing my platform, wasn't a lot of truth getting told. Nigga, Houston ain't big enough. A lot of niggas was hot. Even Willie D about that title. For what? When I'm gonna play what? Jay said it. Jay told Tony Draper that we gonna watch that too. I didn't make that up. Jay said Houston wasn't big enough for nobody else to eat but him. He said that at one point, and he ran Tony Draper off. Yes, other people eat now, but at one point he wouldn't let nobody eat without him, niggas getting whooped on. Unless he said you ain't eat nothing unless he in on it. If you black, that's just a fact. And even Scarface, who turned it, man, who turned Jay's life around, changed his life forever, wasn't above getting whooped on if he ever told the truth in public about what's going on at Rap A Lot Records and how he felt.
No, that's family business. As far as that's on a person.
Who the hell Finesse? What this all about is, who the hell Finesse think he is? And he think he gonna get away with what he tried to pull? Telling the federal police that he getting extorted, he won't out that contract, that there's other stuff going on that M.O.B ties behind besides music. He said that. He said, we ain't making no music money. Then where all this fucking money come from? What the hell are y'all doing? I'm still down with M.O.B ties the streets. Nigga, it's supposed to be a label. That's what got Dirk locked up. Finesse gonna wish he wouldn't have said that.
Personal level, like that's my brother, that's my blood.
A lot of motherfuckers wanted to be like Mike growing up. I wanted to be like Jay Prince.
You know, when you look at people that you would have most, like a lot of motherfuckers wanted to be like Mike growing up, and I wanted to be like Jay.
He was raised by wolves, and I was raised by that wolf. I'm cut from the same cloth.
Always say it's the wolves, you know. He was raised.
You want to be like Jay because you seen Jay have money. You seen Jay have money, but to get to where Jay at, you gotta be a lot of these stories, a lot of Big Mike stories, a lot of what happened in the row, a lot of misagreements with Pimp, a lot of having to go check 3-2, disagree with Screw, a lot of disagreements in Houston, a lot of running off Tony Draper. So you know it got to be a lot of that till you get to where Jay is. So Face like, so if you're gonna look up to that, you know what you got to do to your people to get there. See, that's what Face don't understand. Face old enough to know what was going on was wrong. He wise enough to know that was wrong, but he's scared. He not even man enough to stand up for his own words. He got to go on Vlad TV as a grown ass man and say I was wrong. What's wrong about what? That Jay did whatever he wanted with your shit, and you had to go along with it. That's how you felt.
It's by wolves, and I was raised by that wolf. Okay?
Right.
So when the wolf go kill, a wolf feed his pack. Okay?
Yeah.
Me being raised by that same wolf, when I go kill, it's my responsibility to go feed my pack.
Yeah.
You understand?
Absolutely.
So understand the cloth that we cut from. I'm cut from that cloth.
This complete 180 will be shocking to the music world. It's a known fact that J. Prince, with more than 30 years in rap music, has been deeply responsible.
So what he just saying is Jay fed them. So anything he make from Def Jam or anything, he got to feed Jay. That he said it. He got to feed them. I got to do like Jay did. See, that's what Jay explained to him. I feed you. So it's naturally anything Def Jam give you or anybody else you bring that here, let me look at them contracts. And you can't take that name Scarface no goddamn where I don't eat off of. You go as Brad Jordan, face it, okay, and you better pay attention. From that day on, that nigga didn't go as Scarface. He was going as Brad Jordan. He started dropping music as Brad Jordan. He stopped making Scarface music, bro, because he didn't own it. And he was like, cool.
For not just the Ghetto Boys, but an instrumental figure in the careers of Devin the Dude, Straight the Truth, Zero, Bun B, Big Mike, Pimp C, Tila, Seagram, and producer Mike Dean. Prince's son, Jazz Prince, also a Rap-A-Lot exec, has been involved with the career and development of Drake. In conclusion, when Face was asked, does he still feel the same way about Jay, Face would say, and I quote, in all actuality, that shit that J. Prince did was just business. Legally, it's right. Morally, as an artist, I feel that shit is wrong. I wouldn't just take somebody's shit and throw it out there like that just to make a little change.
Soft-spoken rap mogul has a reputation that precedes him. With some, it's unbelievable respect. Others, it's admiration for his charity efforts in the community, like after-school programs and free food giveaways at the Prince Boxing Complex. And for some, to be frankly honest, it's just downright fear of the man.
Well, I don't desire to be feared. I desire to be loved, if that's possible. But most of all, I just want to be respected, and I don't want nobody to fear me. I'm a lovable person. I'm a small guy also.
Small or not, Prince knows the heavy weight that comes with his name and his empire, the one he built in Houston that still stands tall even today. James Prince had a simple dream in 1986 that led him down a road many wished they could travel. A road paved with platinum and gold albums that now hang in his homes and at the place he built called Rap-A-Lot.
Sometimes I can't believe my own eyes.
Those blessings come in the form of high-profile children like Jazz and James Prince Jr., who are making millions themselves, and they're both under 30. And then there are the trappings of success. Prince has a fleet of cars that go from Rolls Royces to an armored vehicle. There's a penthouse with square footage that could only be guessed.
Whenever I want to feel that feeling of tranquility to be able to think, shoot out to the lake house, shoot out to the ranch.
This is the ranch, 1,100 rolling acres of land in Waller County with a huge private lake, cattle, and a huge main house. Inside is designed for entertaining or just relaxing. Yet another huge kitchen, expensive furniture, and artwork. And you can't forget the pool in the back for the perfect summer day. Prince says he has 6 or 7 homes he actually lives in, from a lake house in Livingston to a compound in Memorial. There's the island he just purchased and the 47-foot Sea Ray in Kemah. You call that a yacht. With all of that, what else could this rap mogul want?
Now the bigger goals in life now is me.
Prince says now that he has all of the material possessions any man could want, he's now working on himself. He says he regrets not getting a formal education, but he's focused on bettering himself the best way he can.
Reading helps, and of course, spiritual nourishment. Hearing the word of God.
Prince is a very spiritual man. He says God is a huge motivator in his life. He believes to whom much is given, much is expected.
I definitely want to be inspiring and inspirational figure to all of those who have any respect about our movement.
So what's next for Prince besides self-improvement? Well, he just brokered the biggest non-pay-per-view fight for super middleweight champ Andre Ward through Jay-Z's company Rock Nation.
But this up for y'all. See, this is where it all started right here. Salute to my partner, 504 Street Toys Unplugged. He named this Houston Ain't Big Enough after my series, but Jay started this when he told Tony Draper Houston wasn't big enough for more than him to eat at that time.
It was a time he and I had a disagreement.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm not here to lie.
I look back, I hear somebody say, first, tap on my shoulder, someone in my ear say, man, fuck them. We don't want them in the city anyway.
I remember back in the 90s with Suave House and Rap A Lot, per se, they said that there was some beef.
I look back and Jay Prince has sent 100 goons.
It's a little uneasy right now between Suave House and Rap A Lot. I know you laugh. Jay Prince, I've been around this shit for a while. Yeah. I've been in the mix for years, brother.
He's falling out over that one.
Yeah. And I remember that, Suave House was based right there in Houston as well as Rap A Lot.
Right.
But then, shout out to Tony Draper.
Yeah, that's my man. That's my friend.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I love Draper. But at that time, next thing I know, Suave House and Tony Draper moved to Atlanta. Yeah. And you know what the word was from the label.
Everybody was saying Houston was too small for both of us.
Jay Prince, you ain't drive Suave
House.
Hey, man, you ain't drive them out of Houston, did you, dog?
Ain't that something everybody was saying, y'all? Imagine that. We all was saying it. We all was saying, Tony Draper, you got to go. No, you said Houston wasn't big enough.
The city of Houston has long been overlooked in the music industry, leaving local artists to fend for themselves, metaphorically speaking, get it out the mud. It was the lack of interest by the majors that birthed the trend of Houston artists going the independent route, where there would be no need for big labels and distribution deals. Their crusade for independence opened the door for the Houston rap scene to be put on the map, solidifying Houston as the hip-hop mecca and undoubtedly the capital of rap for Texas. However, before Houston's rise to prominence on the rap scene, there would be turmoil. These are the detailed events of what took place before, during, and after the war between Rap A Lot and Suave House Records. The legendary Suave House Records is one of the most revered names in Southern hip-hop. The label that was home to such heavyweights such as 8-Ball and MJG, Tila, Earl, Mr. Mike, and Crime Boss was born from raw ambition, determination, and vision. At the age of 16, Tony Draper, aka T. Draper, built Suave House from the ground up, and in doing so, drafted a blueprint that others would soon to be powerhouses would follow. Labels such as Cash Money, Slip and Slide, and No Limit would rise like a phoenix from the flames that Suave House ignited. Born in Memphis, Tennessee, T. Draper would later relocate to Houston, Texas, where he would be raised. Draper, even at one point as a teen, worked alongside Big Mike at the Olive Garden. In fact, when Draper was only 17, it was he who made the connection between Big Mike and Rap A Lot CEO Jay Prince Sr. through his cousin that was already a part of Rap A Lot Records. As a youth, Draper was raised on R&B soul. In his adolescent years, Draper developed a love for hip-hop, starting out as a DJ, Draper was a huge fan of both East and West Coast rappers. It wouldn't be long before Draper would start his own label after recording a few demos that he couldn't get the big East Coast labels such as Sleeping Bag Records, Stuff Break, and Profile to take seriously. Upon launching Suave House, Draper recruited Prince Johnny C., original member of the Houston-based group The Ghetto Boys, as his producer, copying Suave House material to local moms and pops record shops around the South. During this time, mom and pop outlets were better than having a street team. Why is that, you may ask? It's simple. When going into moms and pop stores, they will let every customer know what was new and what was hot. Unbeknownst to many, while merely 18, Draper developed a working relationship with J. Prince Sr. of Rap-A-Lot Records. After being laced with the game from J. Prince himself, T. Draper would begin to build a solid foundation on the Houston rap scene. While visiting his hometown of Memphis, Draper would discover two more raw talents after already having signed Thorough to his Wild House imprint. Those raw talents were 8-Ball and M.J.G. Ball and G would go on to become the next big thing coming out of Memphis. Their pimp stories and gritty street lyrics will be a major brand builder for the Suave House label. The gangster wordplay and downtown flavor of their debut album set the stage for what would be coming out of Texas and Tennessee in the next few years to come. Coming Out Hard became an underground sensation through word of mouth and lots of grinding by Draper, who looped together a loose patchwork of one-stop distribution companies from Chicago to Dallas to help give the album national distribution, as if he was signed to a major. It was during this time that the Source magazine was the end-all, be-all of hip-hop. Always want to be up on game, Draper would buy full-page color ads in the Source every month. This marketing approach ultimately worked, making Coming Out Hard an independent success, which would kickstart a hot run for Suave House Records. However, without Rap-A-Lot Records, there would be no Suave House. In 1986, J. Prince Sr. formed Rap-A-Lot Records as a way to keep his brother Sir Rap-A-Lot off the street, and at the same time grow the overlooked Houston rap scene that was filled with talent. Despite an immense amount of talent, the Third Coast was ignored by big-time music execs and exploited by East Coast DJs. Throughout its 30-year history, Rap-A-Lot became one of the most successful independent hip-hop labels in the game, beginning with the likes of the Ghetto Boys, the promotion of Pimp C, Bun B, Zero, Trey the Truth, Lil Kiki, Slim Thug, and Lil Flip, along with a host of others that I did not mention. Getting to this level of success be no easy task for J. Prince Sr. and his Rap-A-Lot label. Where there's smoke, there's fire. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that not many people wanted smoke with J. Prince Sr. Tony Draper, the man who had once gotten game from J. Prince and introduced the world to acts such as 8-Ball and MJG, South Circle, Crime Boss, and Tila, would soon be on the flip side of the coin. This label's Suave House, the once an up-and-coming hot label of the South, would take a steep spiral downward. According to Draper, this was the result of a transition from a deal with a horrible company called JCOR, and him being burned out from disloyal artists. However, the former artist of Suave House would tell a different story that was filled with lies, deception, manipulation, and outright robbery. Before there would be quote-unquote disloyalty from the artist at Suave House, as stated by T. Draper himself, a beef will be brewing between J. Prince and Draper, and not just any beef, a beef that will spill over to the streets. In fact, J. Prince Sr. can be noted coining the infamous phrase, Houston ain't big enough. Somebody has to go, and that somebody ain't me. Throughout this ongoing beef, unbeknownst to many, Suave House was allegedly ripping off its artists. More than 20 years later, Mr. Mike took to several podcasts to expose the fact that he had never received not one single check from Suave House.
I never got paid from the label.
At all.
At all. It's like people that was on my songs that ain't even as big an artist as me that got something from the label. So I never got anything from the label, right? I even had to pay out my contract.
Tila, another former Suave House artist, jumped ship due to alleged unpaid royalties and a laundry list of other things. It was this bad business that would land Tila at Rap-A-Lot Records, where he would enlist the protection services of J. Prince Sr.
And to have to go to Rap-A-Lot, and then too, how I got to Rap-A-Lot, it wasn't like something that I said, oh, I wanna go to Rap-A-Lot. That wasn't what it was. It was more so when I met Jay, for me, and once again, there's some open stuff, man. See, Jay presented the father figure I never had, right? So, and then he presented too, he understood spirituality. Because, I come out of Memphis, Bible Belt, whole thing. So, but he understood all that, right? So it provided for me a protection. It provided for me a comfort in that sense.
Everyone in the streets of Houston at the time knew what was going down between the two labels. One incident that took place on the Beltway in Houston will show just how shook Tila was of T. Draper. While driving, Tila was spotted by Draper, who asked him to pull over. Clearly not wanting any parts of Draper, Tila would refuse, telling Draper to meet him at Rap-A-Lot offices if he wanted to talk. Let us not forget the Jamaica incident, when 100 Rap-A-Lot goons showed up at the club ready to go to war, as 8-Ball was rumored to be in town to G-check a Rap-A-Lot artist about being dissed on wax.
How about I get up right then, I get a tap on my shoulder. I look back, I hear somebody say, what first? Tap on my shoulder, someone in my ear say, man, fuck them. We don't want them in the city anyway. I look back and J. Prince has sent 100 goons to watch Ghetto Mafia's backs, because apparently everybody in the city between Suave House and Rap-A-Lot knew that 8-Ball was coming to the club, pistols blazing, to confront us about a record. So KB is like, man, Prince J heard about it, man, and I love Prince J. Prince J saved my neck. I had never met this man before in my life. Anytime I see him, I follow him on Instagram, I'll be like, that's that guy.
This beef would escalate to the point where J. Prince was allegedly putting the hard press on T. Draper, making it next to impossible for Suave House artists to perform in Houston and other parts of Texas. Several other incidents would allegedly transpire that involved guns, violence, and extortion. Meanwhile, the ship at Suave House had begun to sink. Ultimately, this beef will lead Suave House shutting down its Houston, Texas operation and relocating to another city and state.
I remember back in the 90s with Suave House and Rap-A-Lot, per se, they said that there was some beef. And I was in Houston, and I remember the label people telling me, it's just it's a little uneasy right now between Suave House and Rap-A-Lot. I know you laugh. Jay Prince, I've been around this shit for a while. I've been in the mix for years, brother.
He's falling out over that one.
And I remember that, Suave House was based right there in Houston as well as Rap-A-Lot.
Right.
But then shout out to Tony Draper.
Yeah, that's my man. That's my friend.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I love Draper. But at that time, next thing I know, Suave House and Tony Draper moved to Atlanta. Yeah. And you know what the word was from the label.
Everybody was saying Houston was too small for both
you
of
stay
us.
Prince, you ain't drive Suave House.
I heard some rumors.
Hey man, you ain't drive them out of Houston, did you, dog?
No, I wouldn't do that to Drake. That's my friend, you know what I mean?
But friend, foe, or not, was it? I mean, in those days, and like I said, I worked for the label, and I just remember the little, it was like a little slight warning that, hey, you out there in Houston, with Ball and G, you just might want to keep your eyes open.
Actually, Drake created his movement in Memphis.
Yeah,
so
with Ball, G, and Tila from Memphis. But Suave House was located in in the 713 right there off, I think it was Southwest Freeway.
Right.
Something like that, yeah.
Draper was a student of mine, you know what I mean? I gave Draper the game, and Draper created a movement over there.
Yeah.
Now, it was a time he and I had a disagreement.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm not here to lie.
If you ain't big enough. See, Finesse, he don't know how this gonna go. Once you're in that contract with this family, you stand in that contract. Or it's gonna get real ugly. And going online talking to the feds about that contract not gonna help you.
A 60th birthday is a major milestone, and longtime rap music mogul James Prince decided to celebrate in a major way.
If I lost everything that I possess, own, or have material-wise, this guy killed all of those people. You know, I brought the investigating report.
November 1st, 2022. A rising superstar lies dead in a Houston parking lot. His name, Takeoff from the Migos. The location, right outside a bowling alley, surrounded by members of one of hip-hop's most feared families. Within hours, the internet explodes with one question. How did this happen when he was supposedly under the protection of the Prince family? But here's what's really wild, gang. This wasn't the first time someone ended up dead after linking up with Jay Prince and his sons in Houston. And it damn sure wasn't the first time rappers found their pockets lighter after dealing with the so-called godfathers of Houston hip-hop. For over 40 years, Jay Prince has built an empire that stretches from Rap-A-Lot Records to boxing management, from cattle ranches to the darkest corners of the music industry. But behind the business suits and the motivational speeches lies something way more sinister. We're talking about a family that's allegedly turned checking in into a multi-million-dollar extortion racket, a family connected to multiple deaths, a family that even the DEA couldn't touch. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on rap's most dangerous dynasty. We're going to break down exactly how Jay Prince and his sons allegedly extorted millions from artists, how they've been connected to multiple deaths, and why even the biggest names in hip-hop are terrified to speak out against them. Stick around until the end, because what we uncover about their business practices and the bodies left in their wake will change how you see the Houston rap scene forever. This is the untold story of hip-hop's most ruthless family. Let's get into it. And before we dive into the allegations, the deaths, and the extortion schemes, we need to understand who Jay Prince really is and how he built this empire that's got the entire rap game shook. James Prince was born in 1965 in Houston's 5th Ward, an area so dangerous they called it the Bloody Nickel. We're talking about one of the most poverty-stricken, violent neighborhoods in all of Texas. By the 1970s, the 5th Ward was leading Houston in shootings, stabbings, and murders. The median income there, a shocking $8,500 a year compared to the national average of $67,000. That's 155% below the poverty line, fam. Now, Jay Prince will tell you he started out legit, mowing lawns at 7 years old, working as a bank teller, then opening up a used car lot called Smith Auto Sales in 1986. Sounds like a classic American success story, right? A young black man pulling himself up by his bootstraps, escaping the hood through hard work and determination. But here's where the story gets murky, gang. See, Jay Prince himself has admitted in interviews and in his book, The Art and Science of Respect, that he was heavy in the streets during this time. We're talking about dealing, we're talking about street activity that he's been vague about but has never fully denied. In fact, the breaking point that allegedly made him want to go legit, finding out his own mother had become addicted to crack cocaine, possibly from his own product. That's some heavy stuff right there. In 1987, Jay Prince officially founded Rap-A-Lot Records, initially to keep his younger brother Sir Rap-A-Lot out of the streets. He built a studio on top of his car lot and started recording music. But this wasn't just about keeping families safe. Jay Prince saw an opportunity that nobody else in the industry recognized at the time. Southern hip-hop didn't exist on the mainstream radar in the late 80s. New York had Run DMC, LL Cool J, and the whole East Coast sound on lock. The West Coast was starting to bubble with NWA. But the South, nobody was checking for Southern rappers. Jay Prince changed all that. He put together a group called the Ghetto Boys, featuring his brother, a dwarf performer named Bushwick Bill, Willie D, and eventually a young rapper he discovered in a parking lot named Scarface. And here's where you see Jay Prince's ruthless business mentality kick in early. When he realized Scarface was more talented than his own brother, he kicked his brother out of the group and replaced him. Family loyalty? Not when there's money to be made, apparently. The Ghetto Boys album Grip It on That Other Level and later We Can't Be Stopped became massive hits. They were controversial, violent, and exactly what the industry needed to pay attention to Southern rap. Jay Prince had done it. He'd put Houston on the map. But success in the music industry brought something else. Attention from law enforcement. And this is where things get really interesting, because what happened next proves that J. Prince wasn't just some regular record label executive. In 1988, the Drug Enforcement Administration opened an investigation into J. Prince and Rap-A-Lot Records. This wasn't some small-time local police investigation gang. This was the federal government, the same people who took down Pablo Escobar and the Medellin cartel, turning their sights on a Houston record label. The DEA believed that Rap-A-Lot Records was a front for drug trafficking operations. They thought J. Prince was using the label to launder drug money, just like BMF would later do with their entertainment ventures, and they had some compelling evidence to back up their suspicions. In 1992, in El Camino from Smith Auto Sales, J. Prince's car lot was stopped near El Paso, Texas, during a routine traffic stop. When police searched the vehicle, they discovered a hidden compartment containing 76 kilograms of cocaine. That's 167 pounds of pure product, fam. Street value, we're talking millions of dollars. The two men in the car were arrested immediately, and the DEA's investigation into J. Prince intensified. Between 1988 and 1999, J. Prince was arrested 5 separate times on drug-related charges. 5 times, gang. But here's the crazy part. He was never convicted, not once. In 1988, J. Prince was pulled over while driving his Mercedes coupe. According to him, the officer approached with his gun already drawn, removed him from the vehicle, and placed him in the back of the squad car. After about an hour, the officer came back and showed J. Prince a small white pill they claimed to have found in his car. But J. Prince wasn't going down without a fight. The next morning, after making bond, he went straight to the hospital and took a drug test to prove he wasn't under the influence. Then, on his attorney's advice, he took a polygraph test and passed. He made both results public. And here's where it gets sketchy on the police side. The story about what drug they found kept changing. First, they said it was ecstasy. Then they said it was Mandrax, which is a Quaalude. Then they said it was Valium. The police report itself was contradictory. While officers publicly claimed they found the pill in J. Prince's car, the official report stated they found it in the back seat of the police car. This led to massive protests outside the Houston Police Department headquarters. Bus loads of people showed up to support J. Prince, claiming he was being targeted and that the drugs were planted. The charges were eventually dropped, but the message was clear. J. Prince had the kind of community support and resources to fight back against law enforcement. But the DEA didn't give up. 2 agents in particular, Chad Scott and Jack Schumacher, made it their mission to take down J. Prince and Rap-A-Lot Records. They spent over a decade investigating, surveilling, and building cases. They would camp outside the Rap-A-Lot offices and pull over anyone coming to or from the location. J. Prince claims these agents were harassing him and his associates, trying to fabricate evidence to justify their investigation. And here's where the story takes a wild turn that proves J. Prince might have been telling the truth all along. The investigation came to an abrupt end in 2000. According to official records, Attorney General Janet Reno shut down the entire operation. But why? There are rumors, gang, rumors that J. Prince donated $200,000 to Al Gore's presidential campaign. Rumors that he used political connections to apply pressure at the highest levels of government. Congresswoman Maxine Waters even wrote a letter to the Attorney General on J. Prince's behalf, alleging racial profiling and harassment by the DEA. Shortly after that letter arrived, the investigation was terminated. But here's the most damning evidence that J. Prince was right about being targeted. In 2019, nearly 20 years later, DEA agent Chad Scott was convicted on 7 criminal charges, including falsifying government records, perjury, and running extortion schemes. His partner, Jack Schumacher, was also exposed for corruption, though he somehow avoided prosecution and actually got promoted to chief detective for the Harris County DA's office. These were the same agents who spent over a decade trying to take down J. Prince. The same agents who investigated multiple cases connected to Rap-A-Lot, and they were dirty cops the whole time. So was J. Prince really trafficking drugs, or was he a successful black businessman being targeted by corrupt federal agents? That's the question, fam. But either way, what this proves is that J. Prince had the power, the connections, and the resources to go toe-to-toe with the federal government and win. That's not normal. That's not something a regular record label owner can do. And if he could beat the DEA, what chance did regular rappers have against him? Now let's talk about the system that J. Prince and his sons allegedly used to extort millions from rappers over the years. It's called checking in, and depending on who you ask, it's either a respectful way to build relationships in different cities, or it's straight up extortion with a friendly face. Here's how it supposedly works. When a rapper or celebrity comes to Houston, especially if they're performing or doing business, they're expected to check in with Jay Prince or his sons. This means reaching out, letting them know you're in town, and often meeting up with them or their crew. Now, Jay Prince will tell you this isn't about extortion. In interviews, he said it's about building relationships, about making sure artists are safe in the city, about connecting with the culture. He even tried to rebrand the term, saying instead of checking in, young artists should think of it as getting connected. But let's be real, gang. When you look at the pattern of what happens to people who don't check in, or who check in and things still go wrong, it starts to look a whole lot less like friendly networking and a whole lot more like a protection racket. Think about how the mob used to operate. They'd come to your business and say, hey, this is a dangerous neighborhood. A lot of bad things could happen. But if you pay us, we'll make sure you're protected. That's extortion, fam. You're creating the threat and then charging people to protect them from it. Multiple sources and former Rap-A-Lot affiliates have suggested that's exactly what the Prince family has been doing in Houston for decades. And the evidence is in the bodies and the bank accounts. Jay Prince himself has admitted that he created the checking in culture. In an interview, he said, the first time that I heard the word checking in, it was in relationship to Houston. I'm gonna have to take the blame for that. He said it with pride, like it was an accomplishment. But then, as law enforcement started paying attention and as the culture shifted, he started backpedaling. In more recent interviews, he said, is there supposed to be a certain protocol for people to check in? No. All these different people want to insinuate like we're extorting people. They have to check in. Man, that ain't no money in that. I got more money than I could spend. But actions speak louder than words, gang. And the actions tell a very different story. Let's look at some examples. When Jay-Z came to Houston during a period of tension between him and Jay Prince admitted in interviews that he knew exactly when Jay-Z's plane was landing. I got calls that he was in the airport, Jay Prince said. I mean, imagine that. I would know when you land. Jay-Z allegedly didn't check in properly, and according to Jay Prince, it didn't go well for him at his hotel because he didn't do protocol. Now, Jay Prince didn't elaborate on what didn't go well means, but the implication is clear. If you don't follow the rules in Houston, there will be consequences. Then there's the NBA YoungBoy situation, which really exposes the checking in system for what it allegedly is. In 2018, a group of people broke into NBA YoungBoy's Houston home. But this wasn't a random burglary, fam. These guys knew exactly what they were looking for. They knew where the car keys were, where valuables were kept, the layout of the house. They even filmed the whole thing. According to NBA YoungBoy, all they actually got were his cameraman's Gucci flip-flops and some loose cash. But after the robbery, the burglars tried to extort YoungBoy for $30,000 to get his stuff back. YoungBoy wasn't having it. He hopped on Instagram and basically told them to drop their location if they wanted smoke. Then suddenly the burglars disappeared from the internet. And who shows up playing hero? Jay Prince. He publicly claimed that he got YoungBoy's stuff back and wanted to make things right. The little homie's place got broke into, Jay Prince said in a video. I got your keys to your Rolls Royce. I got your keys to your McLaren. All that they took, all good, waiting on you. But NBA YoungBoy wasn't buying it. He publicly told Jay Prince to mind his business. And that's when people started connecting the dots. Was this a setup from the beginning? Did people connected to Jay Prince rob YoungBoy, then have Jay Prince return the items to make it look like he was doing a favor, all to pressure YoungBoy into checking in and showing respect? That's the pattern, gang. Create a problem, then offer to solve it, and in the process, you've established dominance and created a debt. It's classic organized crime tactics. And it's not just about respect or clout. There's real money involved. When artists check in, they're often expected to do shows at venues connected to the Prince family. They're expected to use security provided by the Prince family. They're expected to make appearances, give shout-outs, and essentially provide free promotion and legitimacy to the M.O.B Tymes brand. For someone like Jay Prince, who has his hands in multiple businesses, having major artists obligated to him is worth millions. It's free marketing, it's cultural capital, and it's leverage that can be used in business negotiations. Chris Gotti from Murder Inc. told a story about flying to Houston to meet Jay Prince for the first time. His people in Houston warned him, whatever you do, Chris, don't go to his ranch. When Chris asked why, they said, people don't leave his ranch. This is the rumors. This is the legend. Chris went anyway, and Jay Prince had 2 SUVs pick him up, 4 people in one vehicle, 2 in the other, 6 people total. Jay Prince made him wait, then finally called him back to his office, which was decorated with stuffed animals from hunting and an arsenal of weapons on the wall behind his desk. I'm at my desk now. Chris Gotti recalled. Behind him, he got the arsenal. He got the AKS here. He got all the weapons behind him. And I'm like, oh man. That's intimidation, fam. That's sending a message. And it worked because Chris Gotti and Jay Prince ended up doing business together, with Jay Prince getting a piece of the publishing rights for tracks that Murder Inc. artists recorded. This is the system Jay Prince built, and for 40 years it's been operating in plain sight, with rappers too scared to speak out against it. Now we need to talk about the darkest part of this story, gang. The deaths. Because when you look at the pattern of people who've died after connecting with the Prince family in Houston, it starts to paint a disturbing picture. Let's be clear, I'm not saying Jay Prince or his sons directly killed anyone. But what I am saying is that there's a pattern of people ending up dead after being in their presence, and that pattern deserves to be examined. Duke the Jeweler was a well-known and respected jeweler from Chicago who worked with big names in the industry. In 2020, he came to Houston for a Lil Boozy concert and pool party. While there, he attended a dice game that Jay Prince Jr. was hosting. Duke was seen standing right next to Jay Prince Jr. in photos and videos from that night. He was winning big at the dice game, flashing stacks of cash, looking comfortable. But here's the thing, Duke was by himself. No security, no crew, just him, trusting that since he was connected with Rap-A-Lot, everything would be smooth. The next night after leaving Boozy's concert, Duke the Jeweler was robbed for his jewelry and shot dead. The official story is that it was a robbery gone wrong, that someone from Chicago followed him to Houston, or that local stick-up kid saw an easy target. But people started asking questions. Why was Duke so comfortable being by himself in Houston? Did he think checking in with Jay Prince Jr. meant he was protected? And if so, where was that protection when he needed it? Jay Prince Jr. has denied any involvement, saying he didn't even know Duke, didn't know he was a jeweler until after his death, and that the dice game he attended wasn't the same night he was killed. But the connection was made in people's minds. Another person dead after linking up with the Prince family in Houston. This case is particularly disturbing because it involves the same corrupt DEA agents who were investigating Jay Prince. In 1997, a man named Earl Perry was shot and killed during a dice game in Houston's 5th Ward. A man named Lamar Burks was convicted of the murder and sentenced to 70 years in prison. But Burks has maintained his innocence since day one, claiming he was in Louisiana at his sister's wedding when the murder took place. The two lead investigators on the case, DEA agents Chad Scott and Jack Schumacher, the same agents who were trying to take down Jay Prince. They pushed the narrative that Burks was commissioned by Jay Prince to act as an assassin and take out key witnesses in a Rap-A-Lot case. But here's where it gets crazy, gang. In 2019, after Chad Scott was convicted of corruption, two witnesses in the Lamar Burks case came forward and recanted their testimony. One witness said Scott coerced him into giving false testimony. The other witness, Clayton Brown, who was also convicted of the shooting, admitted that he and another person were the actual shooters and that Lamar Burks wasn't even there. That night that I've never seen Lamar, not one time, Brown said in a sworn statement. He said he came forward because after I heard this guy got locked up and was told, I was like, no, it's the perfect time for us to tell the truth now. We ain't got to worry about nobody trying to come kick our door and kill us because they said this guy, Chad Scott, is what he was known for doing. So we have a case where corrupt federal agents potentially framed someone for murder and tried to connect it to Jay Prince. Lamar Burks is still in prison this day despite the new evidence. And Jack Schumacher, the other agent involved, is still working as chief detective for the Harris County DA's office. This case shows the level of corruption surrounding investigations into Jay Prince, but it also raises questions. Was there really a hit ordered? If so, by whom? And why has this case been buried for so long? And now we come to the most high-profile death connected to the Prince family, Takeoff from the Migos. On November 1st, 2022, Takeoff was in Houston with Quavo for what was supposed to be a celebration. Jay Prince's son, Jazz Prince, was being honored with Jazz Prince Day by the city of Houston. Quavo and Jazz were close friends, so Quavo and Takeoff came down to support. That night, they ended up at a bowling alley with Jay Prince Jr., Mike Prince, and other Rap-A-Lot affiliates. According to the Prince family, everything was cool. They were having a good time, smoking, talking, just chilling. Then they went outside, and a dice game started. Here's where the stories start to diverge. According to the Prince family, a man named Willie Bland who was part of Quavo and Takeoff's crew, started an altercation. They claim Bland attacked a smaller guy in their crew with a pistol, hitting him in the head. This sparked a shooting, and in the chaos, Takeoff was hit and killed. But here's what makes people suspicious, gang. A video surfaced showing Jay Prince Jr. walking past Takeoff's body right after the shooting. People were outraged, asking why he didn't stop to help, why he seemed so calm, why he was just walking away. The Prince family went on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast to defend themselves. They claimed Jay Prince Jr. was actually walking to the bathroom to wash blood off his hands, and that Mike Prince was the one who stayed with Takeoff trying to help. They said the video only showed 3 seconds of a much longer situation. They also claimed that after the shooting, Jay Prince Jr. and Mike Prince stayed with Quavo for 2 to 3 hours, making sure he was safe, and even took him to the hospital. According to them, they never abandoned Quavo or Takeoff, but the public wasn't buying it, fam. Too many things didn't add up. If the Prince family controls Houston, if checking in with them is supposed to keep you safe, then how did Takeoff end up dead while under their protection? And here's the most damning part. Willie Bland, the man they're blaming for starting everything, gave a statement to police. In that statement, he said that Jazz Prince gave him the gun he used that night. Let me repeat that. The gun used in the altercation that led to Takeoff's death was allegedly provided by Jazz Prince. Now, Jay Prince tried to spin this as proof they weren't involved. Why would we give someone a gun and then try to rob them? He asked. But that's not the point, gang. The point is that someone in their crew using a gun they provided started an altercation that got Takeoff killed. Jay Prince also said in interviews that he wished the bullet had hit Willie Bland instead of Takeoff, calling Bland the root of everything. But Bland was part of Quavo's crew, someone they were supposed to be hosting and protecting. The whole situation exposed the checking-in system for what it really is, a false sense of security that benefits the Prince family more than it protects the artists. And it gets worse. After Takeoff's death, Jay Prince started going after Offset, Takeoff's cousin and fellow Migos member. In the $1 Million Worth of Game interview, Jay Prince said to Offset, "You wasn't really right there with Takeoff when he was alive. So for you to take these positions that you're taking, I got people everywhere, so I hear all kinds of things. I'm just gonna say this to you. Don't ever put me in no position where I have to defend myself. That wouldn't be healthy for you." That's a threat, fam. A direct threat to a grieving family member of someone who died while under Jay Prince's supposed protection. The audacity of that is insane. Offset fired back on Instagram, and Jay Prince responded with a video claiming he had helped Offset in the past, that he stepped in when Lil Baby's 4PF crew allegedly jumped Offset in 2020, and that he protected Cardi B when she had issues with Crips in LA. Cardi B, Offset, and Whack 100 all called cap on Jay Prince's version of events. But the damage was done. Jay Prince had shown that even in death, even when someone dies under your watch, he'll still try to control the narrative and intimidate anyone who questions him. These 3 cases, Duke the Jeweler, Earl Perry, and Takeoff, represent a pattern. People connect with the Prince family in Houston and they end up dead. Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe it's just the dangerous nature of the streets. Or maybe, just maybe, the protection being offered isn't really protection at all. Now let's talk about how Jay Prince turned fear and intimidation into a multi-million-dollar business model. Because that's really what this is about, gang. It's not just about respect or street cred. It's about money, lots of it. Jay Prince has his hands in everything. Rap-A-Lot Records, boxing management, a cattle ranch, a condom company, real estate, and various other ventures. But the common thread through all of it is leverage. And that leverage comes from his reputation as someone you don't want to cross. Let's start with how Jay Prince allegedly used intimidation to get better deals in the music industry. These stories come from his own book and from interviews he's done over the years, so this isn't speculation, this is him bragging about it. When Rap-A-Lot first got a distribution deal with Geffen Records, everything seemed cool. They were working on releasing a deluxe version of the Ghetto Boys album Grip It on that other level. But 2 months before the release date, Geffen tried to back out, saying the album was too violent and dangerous and they wouldn't distribute it. Jay Prince wasn't having that. According to him, he had some people get beside the Geffen executive and put the phone to his ear. After this talk, Geffen released Rap-A-Lot from the contract. That's intimidation, fam. That's using the threat of violence to get out of a business deal. Then there's the story of his original business partner, Cliff Blodgett. Cliff was there from the beginning. He brought the equipment, helped set up the studio, ran the day-to-day operations. But when Jay Prince looked at the books and saw the company was losing money, he decided to take over. Cliff disagreed, saying Jay Prince wasn't qualified to run the company. They were at a crossroads. So what did Jay Prince do? He bought Cliff out. But knowing Jay Prince's reputation, you have to wonder if that buyout was truly voluntary or if Cliff felt he had no choice. The Priority Records situation is even more blatant. Rap-A-Lot had a 60-40 distribution deal with Priority taking 40% of all revenue. Jay Prince wanted a better split, but Priority refused, saying the contract was the contract. So Jay Prince waited outside the Priority Records office until he knew the executive, Brian Turner, was in the building. He called him and told him that some of his guys had been living off the money Rap-A-Lot was generating. And if they were upset because Priority was taking nearly half, these guys had Brian's home address. He said unless they were released from the contract within an hour, bad things were going to happen. Within 15 minutes, Rap-A-Lot was released from the contract. That's extortion, gang. Textbook extortion. Later, when Jay Prince went back to Priority for a new deal, he lied and said he had a standing offer from Warner Brothers, which had actually fallen through. He used this fake leverage to get Priority to drop their cut from 40% down to 18%. That's fraud and intimidation combined. This story perfectly illustrates how Jay Prince operates in the shadows and then strikes when it's most profitable. Jay Prince had signed a producer named Seven to Rap-A-Lot, and he owned all of Seven's publishing rights. Irv Gotti, who was running Murder Inc. at the time, heard some of Seven's beats and wanted to work with him. But Irv didn't know that Jay Prince owned Seven's publishing. Jay Prince knew what was happening. He knew Seven was producing tracks for Murder Inc., for artists like Ashanti, Ja Rule, and Mary J. Blige. But he didn't say anything. He just let it happen. Seven ended up producing a huge portion of Murder Inc.'s early catalog, all those hits, all those platinum records. And only after all the songs were recorded, released, and making money did Jay Prince make a call. Somebody owes me some money, Jay Prince said. Because he owned Seven's publishing, he was entitled to a cut of every song Seven produced. Irv Gotti had no choice but to pay up. Chris Gotti, Irv's brother, recalled flying to Houston to meet Jay Prince for the first time to sort out the situation. That's when he got the warning about the ranch, saw the weapons on the wall, and realized he was dealing with someone operating on a completely different level. It was a brilliant move from a business standpoint, but it was also shady as hell. Jay Prince could have told Irv up front that he owned Seven's publishing. They could have negotiated a fair deal from the beginning. But instead, he waited until Murder Inc. was locked in, until they had no choice but to pay whatever he demanded. That's the Jay Prince business model. Create a situation where people owe you, then collect when they can't say no. Jay Prince's biggest financial win came from discovering Drake, but even that situation is shadier than most people realize. Jay Prince's son, Jazz Prince, discovered Drake on MySpace in 2007. Drake was a relatively unknown Canadian rapper at the time, but Jazz saw potential. He wanted his dad to sign Drake to Rap-A-Lot, but Jay Prince wasn't feeling the music at first because Drake was singing and rapping, which wasn't common at the time. So Jazz came up with another plan. He was on tour with Lil Wayne at the time, so he pitched the idea of starting a joint venture label with Wayne and signing Drake to that. Jazz even told Wayne he had $1 million to invest. Lil Wayne heard Drake freestyle over his A Milli beat and was immediately sold. They started working on a deal. But here's where it gets messy. The way it was supposed to work, Drake would sign to a joint venture between Lil Wayne and Jazz Prince, and they'd split the profits 50-50. But while the paperwork was being finalized, Drake was blowing up fast. Songs were hitting the charts. The buzz was growing exponentially. Then suddenly, Jazz Prince was kicked off Lil Wayne's tour. No explanation, just a plane ticket home. Lil Wayne's manager had booked the flight without warning. Jay Prince felt something was wrong, so he reached out to Birdman, the head of Cash Money Records. Birdman told him everything would be handled fairly, that they'd make sure Jazz got paid. But months went by with no payment. So Jay Prince reached out again, and Birdman sent $1 million as a good faith payment. Then more months passed, and Jay Prince demanded payment again. Another $1 million came through, but Jay Prince knew he was owed way more than $2 million. Drake was becoming one of the biggest artists in the world. So Jay Prince did what he does best. He conducted an audit of Cash Money's books and filed a massive lawsuit. The lawsuit revealed that Drake was signed to Lil Wayne's Young Money, which was under Cash Money, but he was also signed to Aspire Music Group, a company that Jazz Prince owned a portion of. The deal entitled Aspire to 33% of all of Drake's advances and net profits. Cash Money tried to argue that their deal was with Aspire, not with Jazz Prince personally, and if Aspire hadn't been paid, that wasn't their problem. But the audit showed that Cash Money had never paid Aspire either. The lawsuit settled out of court with Cash Money paying Aspire and Jazz Prince $11 million. But think about that, gang. Drake has made hundreds of millions of dollars over his career. If Jazz Prince is entitled to 33% of Drake's net profits, that $11 million settlement seems like a lowball number. Did Jay Prince settle for less than he was owed? Or did he use other forms of leverage to get additional benefits that aren't public? We may never know. But what we do know is that Jay Prince turned his son's discovery of Drake into millions of dollars, and he did it by being willing to go to war with Cash Money if necessary. Jay Prince's intimidation tactics extend beyond music into the world of boxing, where he managed Floyd Mayweather Jr. during the early part of his career. Jay Prince got into boxing management in the late 90s. His first target was Mike Tyson, who was one of the biggest names in the sport. Jay Prince set up a meeting with Tyson, and according to Jay Prince, Tyson agreed to let him join his management team. But the next day, Tyson's phone number was changed and Jay Prince couldn't reach him. Jay Prince believes Tyson's then manager, Shelly Finkel, pulled the plug because he didn't want to cut Jay Prince in on the money. However, while meeting with Tyson, Jay Prince met a young boxer who gave him his contact info. That boxer was Floyd Mayweather Jr., who at the time was already a champion in his division. Jay Prince and Floyd worked together for 4 years, and Jay Prince was instrumental in building Floyd's brand and negotiating big money fights. But when Jay Prince's contract was up, Floyd decided not to renew. He wanted to move on and work with other people. That didn't sit well with Jay Prince. And according to Bob Arum, the legendary boxing promoter, things got violent. Arum told a story about getting a call that there was a disturbance at his gym. When he arrived, he found that some people had come in with baseball bats and proceeded to break a couple of heads of people in Mayweather's camp. The gym was splattered with blood. Floyd came to Arum's office the next day and said, "Prince wants his money from the fight that's coming up." Arum asked if he should write a letter of credit, but Floyd said, "Prince don't do no letters of credit. You better send the cash." So Arum wrote a check for $600,000, which was Jay Prince's percentage of Floyd's purse as his former manager. Arum said he made it a contract with Jay Prince's lawyer, and Jay Prince got paid. When asked about the incident, Arum said, "Floyd was afraid." He clarified that he didn't know if Floyd was afraid or just doing the right thing. But the implication was clear. People got beaten with baseball bats, and Floyd paid up immediately. That's the Jay Prince effect, gang. Even one of the greatest boxers of all time, a man who's never been afraid of anyone in the ring, allegedly felt he had no choice but to pay when Jay Prince came calling. One of the most fascinating aspects of Jay Prince's operation is that he doesn't always work in the shadows. Sometimes he makes public threats, and somehow he never faces consequences for it. Let's break down some of the most notable examples. In 2014, rumors surfaced that Diddy had slapped Drake during a confrontation outside a Miami nightclub. The beef was allegedly over the song 0 to 100, The Catch Up. According to TMZ, producer Boy 1DA had given the beat to both Diddy and Drake. Diddy sat on it for 8 months without recording a verse. So Drake just dropped the song himself. It became a massive hit, and Diddy was allegedly furious that Drake had stolen his beat. When Diddy saw Drake at the club, he allegedly walked up to him and said, "You'll never disrespect me again," and threw a punch. Now, Diddy is a legend in the game. He built Bad Boy Records, discovered Biggie, and has been a major force in hip-hop for decades. He's also rumored to have serious street ties. Most people would think twice before going at Diddy publicly, but not Jay Prince. He dropped a recorded message called Courtesy Call and said, "Let me put these bully nabans on notice by letting them know that Drake is family. Puffy feeling like he can put his hands on my family opens the doors for his family to be touched. You reap what you sow." That's a direct threat, gang. Not even veiled. Jay Prince was saying that if Diddy touched Drake, then Diddy's family could be touched. That's mob talk. That's the kind of thing that would normally get someone investigated or arrested, but nothing happened to Jay Prince. And Diddy, he backed down. The beef with Drake eventually fizzled out, and Diddy never publicly responded to Jay Prince's threat. Bun B, a Houston legend who's known Jay Prince for decades, explained why people don't clap back at Jay Prince. "I think a lot of people look at it as he's threatening people and this and that, but it's just statements. If you're wrong, make the situation right. Everybody feels like there's gonna be some violence, but I don't see it going that far." In other words, when Jay Prince speaks, people listen. It's not always about violence. It's about the potential for violence. And that potential is enough to make even the biggest names in the industry fall in line. And in 2021, Drake and Kanye West had been going back and forth for years. Subliminal disses, public shots, real tension between two of the biggest artists in the world. Then suddenly, a video surfaced of Kanye West standing next to Jay Prince, reading a message asking Drake to squash the beef and come together for a benefit concert. "This is Ye and Jay Prince," Kanye said, looking uncomfortable. "I'm making this video to address the ongoing back and forth between myself and Drake. Both me and Drake have taken shots at each other, and it's time to put it to rest. And now, Kanye is not the type of person to back down from anything. He's gone at everyone from George W. Bush to Taylor Swift to his own record label. But in this video, he looked nervous, stiff, like he was reading a hostage statement. Joe Budden and others in the hip-hop community started speculating that maybe the apology wasn't as voluntary as it looked, because when Jay Prince makes a call, you either answer or you deal with the consequences. The fact that Kanye, one of the most stubborn and prideful artists in the history of music, was standing next to Jay Prince reading an apology to Drake spoke volumes. Jay Prince had brokered peace between two superstars, but the way he did it left people wondering if it was really peace or just compliance. When Megan Thee Stallion was trying to break free from her first record deal with 1501 Certified Entertainment, run by former baseball player Carl Crawford, things got ugly fast. Megan accused the label of blocking her music releases and trying to control her career. She wanted out of the contract and she was willing to fight for it in court. That's when Jay Prince's name came up. Carl Crawford allegedly brought in Jay Prince to apply pressure and back him up. Court documents mentioned Jay Prince and described him as using strong-arm intimidation tactics. At one point, Jay Prince made a public statement that many interpreted as a physical threat toward Megan. The exact wording isn't clear, but the message was received. Megan was going up against not just 1501, but also Jay Prince. Eventually, Megan was able to get out of her deal, but the fact that Jay Prince inserted himself into the situation shows how far his reach extends. Even when it's not his label, not his artist, not his money directly on the line, he'll step in if there's an opportunity to exert influence and collect favors. In 2018, 6ix9ine was at the height of his trolling powers. He was going to different cities, talking reckless, and generally causing chaos wherever he went. When he tried to attend Jay Prince Jr.'s birthday party in Houston, he was kicked out by Jay Prince's youngest son, Baby J. The message was clear: 6ix9ine was not welcome. Rumors said 6ix9ine wouldn't check in with Jay Prince, and that's why he was banned. Later, when 6ix9ine was testifying against his old crew, he told the court that he was also banned from performing at SXSW by the Rap-A-Lot crew. He also claimed that he robbed Rap-A-Lot affiliates Scumlord Dizzy and Junior Boy, which was a wild thing to admit in federal court. Jay Prince responded on Instagram, "I'm hearing lies he's telling under oath about robbing me or representatives of Rap-A-Lot. Let me just make myself clear. If him or any of those clowns were to try to rob me or anyone from the Rap-A-Lot family, bad news would have beat them home." Again, a public threat. And again, no consequences for Jay Prince. The 6ix9ine situation is interesting because 6ix9ine was a federal informant who testified against multiple people and helped put them in prison. But even he was afraid of getting on Jay Prince's bad side. Even with federal protection, 6ix9ine knew better than to push too hard against the Prince family. Here's the thing that's wild about all of this, gang. Everything I've told you so far, all these stories, all these allegations, they're not secrets. Jay Prince has talked about most of this stuff in interviews and in his book. Other artists have hinted at it. Industry insiders know what's going on. But nobody speaks out. Nobody publicly calls Jay Prince out for extortion or intimidation. Why? Because they're scared. Yuckmouth, a former Rap-A-Lot affiliate, is one of the few people who's been willing to speak on what allegedly goes on behind closed doors at the label. In an interview with DJ Vlad, Yuckmouth said, "Artists was getting fawned up. I ain't gonna name what artists. They was getting fawned up, like physically. If you go against the grain, man, it's gonna be some suck." When Vlad asked if he meant physically, Yuckmouth confirmed, physically. Like, if you go against the grain, man, it's gonna be some suck. That's a former artist saying that people at Rap-A-Lot were getting beaten up if they stepped out of line. That's not normal record label business, fam. That's organized crime tactics. But even Yuckmouth wouldn't name names. He wouldn't give specific examples. Because even years after leaving the label, he's still afraid of the consequences. Remember the story about Chris Gotti flying to Houston to meet Jay Prince? His people in Houston warned him not to go to the ranch because people don't leave his ranch. That's the reputation Jay Prince has built. Whether it's true or not almost doesn't matter at this point, because the perception is the reality. People believe that if you cross Jay Prince, bad things will happen to you. And when everyone believes that, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Nobody speaks out, so there's no collective pushback. Nobody files charges, so there's no legal accountability. Nobody in the industry stands up to him, so his power only grows. The most recent example of this is what's happening with Offset right now. After Takeoff's death, Offset has been one of the few people willing to publicly push back against Jay Prince's narrative. When Jay Prince went on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast and made veiled threats toward Offset, Offset responded on Instagram. He didn't back down. He called out the inconsistencies in Jay Prince's story. But immediately, people in the hip-hop community started worrying about Offset's safety. Not because Offset did anything wrong, but because everyone knows what happens when you go against Jay Prince. There were even fake news stories claiming Offset was in protective custody and that Jay Prince had been arrested for threatening him. The stories were false, but the fact that people believed them shows how real the fear is. An OG from Atlanta even made a public statement warning artists to stop checking in with Jay Prince Jr. or anyone like him when visiting Houston. These fake OGs don't care about your safety, he said. Get real security. Don't let them tell you a car is waiting or that they've got you. That's all cap. That's how you end up like Takeoff, dead over some nonsense that could have been avoided. That's a powerful statement, gang. An OG from another city telling artists not to trust the Prince family's protection. But even he didn't use his full name. Even he was careful about how he said it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The music industry is complicit in allowing Jay Prince to operate the way he does. Record labels know about the checking in system. They know artists are being pressured, but they don't do anything about it because Jay Prince has connections, he has power, and he's been in the game for 40 years. Promoters know that booking shows in Houston means dealing with the Prince family, but they don't push back because they want their events to go smoothly. Other artists know what's happening, but they stay quiet because they don't want to become targets themselves. And law enforcement, as we've seen with the DEA investigation, they tried to take Jay Prince down and failed. The agents who investigated him turned out to be corrupt. The case was shut down by the Attorney General. What message does that send to local police in Houston? It sends the message that Jay Prince is untouchable. So the system perpetuates itself. Jay Prince maintains power through fear and reputation. The industry enables him by staying silent, and artists continue to check in, continue to pay tribute, continue to give Jay Prince and his sons money and respect, all because they're afraid of what might happen if they don't. Now let's talk about where all this money goes and how Jay Prince has built a legitimate business empire on top of his allegedly illegitimate activities. At its peak, Rap-A-Lot Records was one of the most successful independent labels in hip-hop. They had the Ghetto Boys, Scarface, Bun B, Pimp C, Devin the Dude, Zero, Trey the Truth, and many others. The label has been responsible for numerous gold and platinum records over the years. We're talking about millions of dollars in revenue from album sales, streaming, touring, and merchandise. But in the last decade, Rap-A-Lot hasn't released any major hits. They signed YB and Nahmir in 2018, but that didn't pan out. The label has been mostly quiet, living off catalog sales and past accomplishments. So if the label isn't generating new revenue, where is Jay Prince's money coming from? That's the question people have been asking, and it's part of why the extortion allegations have gained traction. Jay Prince owns an 1,100-acre ranch just outside of Houston where he raises Black Angus cattle and produces hay. According to Jay Prince, the hay operation alone generates about $200,000 a year. If the cattle operation is equally profitable, that's potentially $400,000 a year from the ranch. That's good money, but it's not enough to maintain the lifestyle and influence that Jay Prince has. Jay Prince has managed several champion boxers over the years, including Floyd Mayweather Jr., Andre Ward, and Teofimo Lopez. Boxing management can be extremely lucrative. Managers typically take 10 to 33% of a fighter's purse, and championship fights can be worth millions of dollars. When Jay Prince was managing Floyd Mayweather, even for just 4 years, he was making serious money. Floyd was already a champion and was fighting regularly. Those purses were in the millions, and Jay Prince was getting his cut. But again, Jay Prince hasn't been as active in boxing management in recent years. He still has fighters, but none at the level of Floyd Mayweather. Jay Prince has also started a condom company called Strap, invested in real estate, and has various other business interests. He's even bought a private island, which shows the level of wealth he's accumulated over the years. But when you add up all the legitimate income sources, it still doesn't fully explain the level of influence and power Jay Prince wields. That's where the allegations of extortion, protection money, and under-the-table deals come into play. Perhaps Jay Prince's most valuable asset is the M.O.B Ties brand itself. It stands for Movement of Bosses Together in Elevated Structure, according to Jay Prince. The brand has become synonymous with Houston hip-hop. Artists wear M.O.B Ties merchandise. Promoters use the M.O.B Ties name for events. It's become a cultural phenomenon, and Jay Prince has monetized it brilliantly. There's M.O.B Ties clothing, M.O.B Ties events, M.O.B Ties affiliations. It's a brand that carries weight, and weight equals money in the hip-hop industry. But the brand is also built on fear and reputation. It's built on the idea that if you're with mob ties, you're protected, and if you're against mob ties, you're in danger. That's not a legitimate business model, gang. That's a protection racket with good marketing. Let's break down exactly how J. Prince's alleged system of control works, because it's actually quite sophisticated when you look at it from a business perspective. First, you establish dominance in your territory. J. Prince did this by being one of the first successful hip-hop entrepreneurs in Houston. He put the city on the map musically, which gave him cultural capital. He also allegedly used street tactics to eliminate competition and make it clear that he was the one in charge. The DEA investigation, the multiple arrests, the rumors of violence, all of that contributed to building a reputation as someone you don't mess with. Next, you create a system that funnels money and influence to you. In J. Prince's case, that system is checking in. By establishing the expectation that artists need to check in when they come to Houston, J. Prince created a situation where he has access to every major artist who performs in the city. That access can be monetized in multiple ways, requiring artists to use security services connected to the Prince family, requiring artists to perform at venues connected to the Prince family, requiring artists to make appearances or give shout-outs that promote the Mob Ties brand, creating opportunities for business deals that benefit the Prince family. None of this is explicitly stated as extortion. It's all framed as building relationships and showing respect. But the underlying threat is always there. If you don't play ball, something bad might happen. The system only works if people believe there will be consequences for not following the rules. That's where the reputation for violence comes in. Whether J. Prince and his sons are directly responsible for violence or not, the perception is that they are. And that perception is reinforced every time someone ends up dead or robbed after not checking in properly. Duke the Jeweler didn't have problems until after he was seen with J. Prince Jr. Takeoff died while under the Prince family's protection. NBA Youngboy's house got broken into, and then J. Prince returned his items. Each of these incidents reinforces the narrative. You need the Prince family's protection, and if you don't have it, bad things can happen. This is the genius part of the system. J. Prince never explicitly says, "Pay me or I'll hurt you." He never directly threatens violence in a way that could be prosecuted. Instead, he speaks in generalities. He talks about defending himself, or about how bad news would beat you home. He frames everything as reactive rather than proactive. When something bad happens, he can always say it wasn't him, it was someone else. He was trying to help, he was trying to prevent it. There's always plausible deniability. And because he's built up so much goodwill in the community through charity work, through supporting local artists, through being a successful Black businessman, people are willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Once the system is established in one area, you expand it. J. Prince has done this by having his sons take over day-to-day operations, which extends the family's reach, branching into other industries like boxing, where the same intimidation tactics can be used, building relationships with artists from other cities like Drake, which gives him influence beyond Houston, creating the Mob Ties brand, which allows him to franchise his reputation. It's a brilliant business model if you ignore the fact that it's allegedly built on extortion and intimidation. Now let's talk about who really pays the price for J. Prince's alleged system of control. Because it's not just the artists who check in or the people who end up dead. The impact is much wider than that. Young artists coming up in Houston face an impossible choice. If they want to make it in the music industry, they need to build a buzz in their hometown first. But building a buzz in Houston means potentially coming into contact with the Prince family. Do they check in and risk getting caught up in the system? Do they refuse to check in and risk being shut out of opportunities, or worse? It's a lose-lose situation for artists who just want to make music. And if they do check in, they're essentially giving up a piece of their independence and their earnings before they've even made it. That's money that could go toward better production, better marketing, better opportunities. Instead, it's going to pay tribute to someone who didn't help them create their art. When artists from other cities come to Houston to perform, they're often told they need to check in for their own safety. But as we've seen with Takeoff, checking in doesn't guarantee safety. It just guarantees that the Prince family gets their cut. Artists end up paying for security they don't need, making appearances they don't want to make, and giving respect to people who haven't earned it, all because they're afraid of what might happen if they don't. That's not how the music industry should work, gang. Artists should be able to perform anywhere without having to pay tribute to local power brokers. Takeoff's family lost a son, a brother, a cousin. Duke the Jeweler's family lost a father, a husband, a provider. Earl Perry's family lost a loved one. And Lamar Burks has been in prison for over 20 years for a murder he may not have committed. These families are the real victims. They've lost people they love, and in many cases, they haven't gotten justice. The circumstances surrounding these deaths are murky, the investigations are questionable, and the people who might have answers aren't talking. Takeoff's mother has to live with the fact that her son died while supposedly under protection. She has to see Jay Prince and his sons on podcasts defending themselves, making threats toward her nephew Offset, and acting like they're the victims in all of this. That's not right, fam. That's not justice. Hip-hop culture as a whole suffers when this kind of behavior is allowed to continue. The checking-in system has spread beyond Houston. Now you hear about it in LA, in Atlanta, in Chicago, in every major city. Young artists think this is normal. They think it's just part of the game. They think you have to pay tribute to local OGs or risk getting hurt. But that's not what hip-hop was built on. Hip-hop was built on creativity, on competition, on taking the mic and proving you're the best. It wasn't built on extortion and intimidation. When we allow people like Jay Prince to operate unchecked, we're saying that power and fear are more important than talent and art. We're saying that it's okay to profit off of other people's creativity as long as you're scary enough. That's not the culture I want to be part of, and I don't think it's the culture most hip-hop fans want either. This is the question everyone asks. If Jay Prince has been doing all of this for 40 years, why hasn't he been charged with anything? The answer is complicated, but it comes down to a few key factors. And the biggest reason is that victims and witnesses don't cooperate with law enforcement. When you're dealing with someone who has Jay Prince's reputation, people are afraid to come forward. And even when something happens, even when there's a crime, people don't want to testify. They don't want to give statements. They don't want to be seen as snitches or cooperators. And without witnesses, without testimony, it's almost impossible to build a case. As I mentioned earlier, Jay Prince is very careful about how he operates. He doesn't make explicit threats that can be recorded and used against him in court. He speaks in generalities and implications. When he says something like, "Don't put me in a position where I have to defend myself," that's not technically a threat. It's a warning, and warnings aren't illegal. When bad things happen, there's always distance between Jay Prince and the actual act. He wasn't the one who broke into NBA Youngboy's house. He wasn't the one who shot Takeoff. He wasn't the one who robbed Duke the Jeweler. So even if prosecutors wanted to charge him, they'd have to prove that he ordered these things or that he was part of a conspiracy. And that's incredibly difficult to do without cooperating witnesses. The DEA investigation into Jay Prince revealed that the agents leading the case, Chad Scott and Jack Schumacher, were corrupt. They falsified records, coerced witnesses, and ran their own extortion schemes. If the people investigating Jay Prince were dirty, how can we trust any of the evidence they gathered? How can we trust any of the cases they built? This corruption has tainted everything related to Jay Prince's legal troubles. It's given him a legitimate defense. He was being targeted by corrupt cops who were trying to frame him. And honestly, based on what we know about Scott and Schumacher, that defense might be true. Jay Prince might have been unfairly targeted, at least in some cases, but that doesn't mean he's innocent of everything. It just means the evidence is compromised. Jay Prince has allegedly built relationships with powerful people over the years. The rumor about the $200,000 donation to Al Gore's campaign, the letter from Congresswoman Maxine Waters, the fact that the Attorney General personally shut down the DEA investigation. These connections provide protection. When you have friends in high places, it's much harder for local or even federal law enforcement to come after you. And Jay Prince has been smart about building these connections. He does charity work in Houston. He supports local causes. He's seen as a successful Black businessman who's giving back to his community. That public image makes it politically difficult to go after him because it can be framed as targeting a pillar of the community. If prosecutors really wanted to take down Jay Prince, they'd probably need to use RICO laws, which are designed to prosecute organized crime. But RICO cases are incredibly complex and expensive. You need to prove a pattern of criminal activity. You need multiple witnesses. You need extensive documentation. And as we've seen with recent RICO cases in hip-hop, like the Young Thug case and the case against Big U that you mentioned in your question, these cases can take years to build and years to prosecute. Law enforcement in Houston may not have the resources or the political will to pursue a RICO case against Jay Prince, especially given his connections and his public image. You mentioned Big U in your question, and I think it's worth comparing the two because there are a lot of similarities. Big U, whose real name is Eugene Henley Jr., was recently hit with a RICO case for allegedly running an extortion scheme in Los Angeles. The feds say he used his position as an OG and his connections in the entertainment industry to extort artists and businesses. Sound familiar? The checking-in system in LA operates very similarly to the one in Houston. Artists are expected to connect with certain people when they come to the city. If they don't, there can be consequences. Big U was allegedly involved in the events leading up to Nipsey Hussle's death, though he hasn't been charged in connection with the murder itself. But the feds are looking at his overall pattern of behavior, his use of intimidation, and his alleged extortion of artists. Now, some people have speculated that J. Prince was actually Big U's mentor, that Big U learned the checking-in system from J. Prince and implemented it in LA. If that's true, and if Big U is now facing RICO charges for doing exactly what J. Prince has been doing for 40 years, then the question becomes, is J. Prince next? The feds have shown they're willing to go after hip-hop figures using RICO laws. Young Thug, Gunna, Big U, and others have all been hit with these charges in recent years. J. Prince has to be looking at these cases and wondering if he's next on the list. And maybe that's why he's been more vocal lately, why he's been doing interviews and trying to control the narrative. Because if the feds do come for him, he wants public opinion on his side. He wants to be seen as a legitimate businessman who's being unfairly targeted, not as a criminal who's been running an extortion racket for decades. To be fair, let's look at this from J. Prince's perspective and consider what his defense would be. J. Prince would argue that he's built multiple legitimate businesses over the years. Rap-A-Lot Records, The Ranch, boxing management, real estate. He'd point to his tax returns, his business licenses, his contracts. He'd say that he's been successful because he's smart, because he works hard, and because he saw opportunities that others didn't. J. Prince would point to the DEA investigation and the fact that the agents who investigated him were later convicted of corruption. He'd argue that he was unfairly targeted because he was a successful black man in a white-dominated industry. And honestly, there's probably some truth to that. The DEA investigation does seem to have been compromised by the corruption of Scott and Schumacher. J. Prince would argue that the checking-in system is just about building relationships and showing respect. He'd say that when artists come to Houston and connect with him, it's because they want to, not because they have to. He'd point to his relationships with Drake, with Quavo, with other major artists, and say that these are genuine friendships, not business arrangements based on fear. When it comes to the deaths and the violence, J. Prince would argue that he can't control what other people do. He'd say that he's not responsible for every person who claims to be affiliated with mob ties or Rap-A-Lot. He'd point out that he's never been convicted of a violent crime, that there's no evidence directly linking him to any of these incidents. J. Prince would point to his charity work, his support of local artists, his contributions to Houston's culture. He'd say that he's given back more than he's taken and that he's helped more people than he's hurt. And again, there's probably some truth to that. J. Prince has done positive things for Houston. He has helped artists. He has given back to the community. But the question is, does the good outweigh the bad? And can you really call it charity when it's funded by allegedly illegal activity? So where do we go from here? What happens to J. Prince and his empire? The most likely scenario, unfortunately, is that nothing changes. J. Prince continues to operate the way he has for 40 years. Artists continue to check in. The system continues to function. Without cooperation from victims, without a major investigation, without political will to prosecute, J. Prince remains untouchable. And he'll continue to do interviews, continue to build his brand, continue to make money, and the cycle will continue. If the feds decide to pursue a RICO case against J. Prince, similar to what they did with Big U, then everything could change very quickly. A RICO case would allow prosecutors to look at J. Prince's entire operation, to connect dots that local law enforcement couldn't connect, to compel testimony from witnesses who've been too afraid to come forward. But building a RICO case takes years. It requires extensive resources, and it requires political will at the highest levels of the Justice Department. Given J. Prince's connections and his public image, it's not clear if the feds would be willing to take that risk. Maybe the most hopeful scenario is that the culture shifts, that artists start refusing to check in, that the industry starts pushing back against these systems of control. We're already seeing some of that with the backlash against J. Prince after Takeoff's death. People are asking questions, people are speaking out. If enough artists stand together and say, we're not doing this anymore, then the system loses its power. But that requires courage, it requires solidarity, and it requires artists to be willing to risk their safety and their careers to stand up for what's right. J. Prince is getting older. He's been in the game for 40 years. At some point, he's going to step back and let his sons take over completely. But will J. Prince Jr., Jazz Prince, and the others be able to maintain the same level of control? Will they have the same reputation, the same fear factor? Or will the transition of power create an opportunity for the system to be dismantled? Only time will tell. At the end of the day, this story isn't really about J. Prince. It's about what we're willing to accept in hip-hop culture. Are we okay with artists being extorted? Are we okay with people dying because they didn't check in with the right people? Are we okay with fear being more powerful than talent? Because that's what's at stake here, gang. Every time we stay silent about this stuff, every time we give Jay Prince a pass because that's just how the game works, we're saying that this is acceptable. But it's not acceptable. It's not okay that Takeoff is dead. It's not okay that Duke the Jeweler is dead. It's not okay that young artists in Houston have to choose between their independence and their safety. Jay Prince has built an empire, there's no denying that. He's been successful in multiple industries. He's put Houston on the map, he's helped launch the careers of legendary artists, but at what cost? How many people have been hurt? How many people have been extorted? How many families have lost loved ones? And how much longer are we going to let this continue? The truth is, Jay Prince's power only exists because we give it to him. Because we're afraid to speak out, because we're willing to look the other way. But knowledge is power, fam, and now you know the truth, you know the pattern, you know the system. The question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge? Are you going to keep supporting artists and businesses that enable this behavior? Are you going to keep staying silent when you see injustice? Or are you going to speak up? Are you going to demand better? Are you going to say that hip-hop culture deserves more than this? The choice is yours. And look, I know this was a heavy video, gang. We covered a lot of dark stuff. Extortion, intimidation, death, corruption. It's not easy to talk about, but these conversations need to happen. We can't keep sweeping this stuff under the rug and pretending everything is okay. Hip-hop is bigger than any one person. It's bigger than Jay Prince, bigger than any label, bigger than any city. It's a global culture that's changed the world. But if we want hip-hop to continue to grow and thrive, we have to hold people accountable. We have to demand better from our leaders, our OGs, our industry executives. We have to say that talent matters more than fear, that art matters more than intimidation, that life matters more than money. Jay Prince and his sons have allegedly extorted millions from rappers over the years. They've been connected to multiple deaths. They've built an empire on fear. But empires fall, gang. They always do. And when this one falls, I hope we build something better in its place. Something based on respect, not fear. Something based on talent, not intimidation. Something based on love for the culture, not love for money. That's the hip-hop I want to be part of. And I hope you do too. If you made it this far, drop a comment and let me know what you think. Do you think Jay Prince is a misunderstood businessman or a criminal who's been getting away with it for too long? Do you think the feds should investigate him? Do you think the culture needs to change? Let's have a real conversation about this because silence is what allows this stuff to continue. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. Until next time, stay safe out there, gang. And remember, don't let fear control your life. Peace.
Coffee. Follow me.